Chapter 1009. Jun Changshao, who had taken the netherworld pill, was awakened by a bucket of cold water. So, everything from the coffin explosion to Shi Jingxian crying and running over was just a dream. "Can you put your sword away now?" Miao Saifeng said. It was her idea to pour cold water on him. Lu Qianqian deliberately used the ice element to make the water even colder. As expected, Jun Changshao was awakened from his dream. Clang! Lu Qianqian sheathed her sword and said coldly, "Let's go back to the cell." Miao Saifeng did not say anything. She followed Lu Qianqian back to the women's cell. On the way, she thought to herself, there's actually a poison in this world that can make people enter a state of suspended animation. It's unbelievable. Since Jun Changshao was not dead, everyone in the Eternal Sect rejoiced. The sorrowful atmosphere that had been hanging in the air was swept away. Death isn't scary. Jun Changshao rested his chin on his hand as he sat in the main hall. Wait! What about the side mission? He hurriedly opened the mission panel and found that the side mission was empty. However, he had 10,000 more contribution points than before. He muttered, "It seems that I completed the side mission when I faked my death." The mission only gave him 10,000 contribution points. There was no reward. However, Jun Changshao was very satisfied. After all, he could get contribution points just by sleeping. He would not mind if such a good thing happened 10,000 times. Patriarch. Elder Wei said, "What's going on?" If not for Miao Saifeng's diagnosis, he would have thought that the Patriarch was dead. However, he woke up after being splashed with cold water. This was unbelievable. Jun Changshao did not hide anything and told them about the netherworld pill. When Elder Wei, Old Ding, and the others learned that one would enter a state of suspended animation after taking the pill, they all widened their eyes. "Oh, right." Jun Changshao said, "Where's Palace Master Shi?" At that time, the mission was urgent, so he didn't explain anything and just took the pill. That woman was sitting next to him, so she was probably scared out of her wits, right? Elder Wei said, "Palace Master Shi has been placed in a temporary room." The rooms of the Iron Bone Peak that were once used for disciples to live in had now been divided into guest residential areas. Jun Changshao walked in. When Shi Jingxian saw him, she was startled at first. Then, she took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "Jun Patriarch, you're still alive?" "Yes." Go Xing smiled. "You scared me to death." Shi Jingxian clutched her chest. A bright smile appeared on her face, but her eyes were still red. "I'm sorry." Jun Changshao said apologetically, "I've made Palace Master Shi worry." Shi Jingxian smiled carelessly and said, "As long as Jun Patriarch is fine. If you're not busy, you can stay here for a few more days," Jun Changshao said. Shi Jingxian shook her head and said, "I've been out for many days. There are many things in the sect waiting for me to deal with." She also wanted to stay in the sect of all times temporarily, but as the sect master, she had to shoulder her responsibilities. On the same day, Shi Jingxian left with Leng Xingyue. Jun Changshao watched them leave before turning around to return. Lu Qianqian appeared at the mountain gate at some point and said coldly, "The entire sect is heartbroken over the Patriarch, but you didn't say anything. Instead, you ran to apologize to Palace Master Shi." Go Sheng was immediately embarrassed. Lu Qianqian said, "In the future, if you pretend to be dead again, tell us in advance so that everyone won't worry about the Patriarch." Indeed. During the period of Jun Changshao's death, even Elder Wei, who had experienced great storms, was a little confused, let alone the disciples. The situation was urgent. "I didn't care so much and just ate the underworld pill. I won't do it again," Jun Changshao said in a self-reflecting tone. Lu Qianqian said, "Miao Saifeng is very accomplished in the way of poison. Patriarch, you can consider recruiting her." Jun Changshao nodded. To be able to detect the poison in his body and think of waking him up with cold water, she was definitely capable. Although the way of poison was not elegant in the falling star continent, once it reached a certain level, it would not be a problem to poison a half-sage or wusheng. The sect of all times lacked talents in the way of poison and also lacked a hall that focused on poison. If they could subdue Miao Saifeng, they could fill this gap. Creak. The prison cell opened, and sunlight shone in. Sha-sha-sha. The spiders and scorpions scattered around fled. Jun Changshao walked in and looked at Miao Saifeng, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, and said, "Have you gotten used to living here? If I say I'm not used to it, will you let me go?" "I won't." Miao Saifeng did not say anything. Jun Changshao waved his hand and pinched a shivering spider in his hand, and said, "There are tens of thousands of poisons in the world. What Palace Master Miao knows is just the tip of the iceberg. For example," Miao Saifeng said, "the poison that made you fake your death." Jun Changshao did not comment and said, "Actually, one of the ancestors of the sect of all times is quite knowledgeable in the way of poison. He once created a mantra called the 100 Generations of Poison Scripture. Unfortunately, there was no talent in the way of poison, and it was abandoned in the technique pavilion." 100 Generations of Poison Scripture. Miao Saifeng frowned slightly. Swoosh! Jun Changshao waved his hand, and a secret manual fell on the bed. The words 100 Generations of Poison Scripture were engraved on the cover, and he said, "Since you are proficient in the way of poison, you should be able to understand it." Miao Saifeng opened her eyes, and then picked up the secret manual. After flipping through a few pages, she stood there with a dazed expression. This was an unfathomable way of poison scripture. If she could comprehend it, not only would she be able to increase her strength, but her use of poison would also reach the peak. Swoosh! Jun Changshao raised his hand and sucked the 100 Generations of Poison Scripture over, and said, "Submit to me, and this secret manual is yours." "Of course. My sect of all times Poison Hall still lacks a hall master." Miao Saifeng smiled. No wonder he took the initiative to show her the secret manual. So this was his intention. Jun Changshao said, "My sect has already been promoted to a third-rate sect. Letting a fifth-rate sect leader become a hall master doesn't seem to be a bad deal, right? I'll think about it. I'll give you 3 days." After Jun Changshao finished speaking, he turned around and left. However, just as he was about to close the cell, he heard Miao Saifeng say, "I agree." Jun Changshao was speechless. When he tried to persuade Li Luoqiu back then, she also said that she would think about it, but in the end, she agreed immediately. Could it be that this kind of mature woman would make a decision after thinking about things for a while? "Palace Master Miao," Jun Changshao said, "please hand over your soul origin." This woman was an expert in using poison. He had to control her completely, or else she could not be trusted easily. Miao Saifeng was really attracted by the 100 Generations of Poison Scripture, so after hesitating for a while, she handed over her soul origin. On the same day, Jun Changshao announced that the sect had established a poison hall, and Miao Saifeng would be the hall master. Because there was no single peak for the time being, the poison hall's entrance was temporarily located on Drizzle Peak. In this peak, there was already a mature woman who used to be an assassin, and now there was a mature woman who used to be a poison master. This was definitely the most terrifying combination of women in the world. Chapter 10:10. Although the poison hall had been established, it only had Miao Saifeng as its commander. Compared to the neighboring Drizzle Hall, it was simply too desolate. Jun Changshao's intention was to open the hall first. In the future, there would naturally be disciples of the Poison Tao moving in. As for the 100 Generations of Poison Scripture he bought from the Technique Pavilion, he did not give it to Miao Saifeng because it would depend on her performance in the future. Sigh. Sitting in the study, Jun Changshao was speechless. In order to recruit this Poison Tao expert, I used hundreds of secret martial arts manuals. There are gains and losses. The system said, "Host, there is no need to sigh." True. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Continue to expand the stronghold on the battlefield, then find a plane to fight in the Slaughter Azura field. Although he was very curious about Master Fan's request for help and the grand plan, he was more concerned about the epic mission. After all, it was related to whether he could become a sword and warrior saint. The next day, Jun Changshao went to the medicine hall and handed over the list of ingredients for the high-grade body-shaping pill. He said, "Set aside an area and plant these ingredients separately. If this kind of body-strengthening pill could be mass-produced, it would definitely be widely available." Elder Wei took it and looked at it carefully. He said, "Although there are many varieties, the quality is not too high. Plant them in the modified medicine field and they will mature in about a month." Okay. Jun Changshao left the medicine hall and entered the plain battlefield. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an open space below the floating mountain, Paige was controlling the earth energy to construct. From the looks of it, it was obviously much stronger than when it first came to the battlefield. When the heavens give a great responsibility to a great man, it must first torment his will, work his muscles and bones, and starve his skin. At this rate, even if Paige could not surpass the little dragon, it could at least become one of Jun Changxiao's top contracted beasts. "Baby," Jun Changxiao murmured, "when I reach the peak, you will be by my side." Epic Mission 9 had already met the initial requirements, but because of the excessive completion rate, Goxing had to continue to expand the area and develop the city to a medium or even large scale. For this, he could only continue to look for opportunities. Whoosh! Jun Changshao flew out of the stronghold and took out the treasure finder. In the end, he discovered that there were only 4 or 5 light spots scattered on the surface. Thus, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. "Hurry up and find them all." The system said, "What a sin." In half a day, Jun Changshao had found all the hidden treasures hidden in the plain battlefield. On his way back to the stronghold, he heard several warriors chatting. "I heard that the Totem Continent has declared war on the Starry Crescent land. TSK. These two are both 5th-tier planes. Once they fight in the slaughtering Azura field, it will definitely be an earth-shattering battle. It's been a few years since a battle in the slaughtering Azura field appeared. I can't miss it." As they discussed, everyone's faces changed drastically, and they said in shock, Jun Changshao. Run! Shwa! In an instant, everyone covered their heads and fled like rats. The corner of Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. He wanted to come over to ask about the specific situation, but he ran away when he saw him. That was too cowardly. Totem Continent, Starry Crescent Land. 3 days later, a battle in the Slaughter Azura field. Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, "I have to go and watch the show." Since a large number of warriors from the Falling Star Continent had come, they would go to the Slaughter Azura field sooner or later. So he needed to understand what was so special about this place that was opened by the upper realm and allowed planes to kill each other. Jun Changshao returned to the stronghold with a few opportunities. As expected, the area had expanded a lot, but it was still far from reaching a medium scale. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "If a sky battlefield spirit can come every day, there is no need to worry about not being able to develop into a large city." He had already stolen all the opportunities that could appear on the treasure finder. If he wanted to expand the city in the shortest time possible, he could only rely on the battlefield spirit. Unfortunately, ever since the ghost in the heaven battlefield, he hadn't come back. "Master." While he was in a dilemma, Paige ran over with sweat all over and said, "I sense some kind of energy pulsating underground a few hundred miles away from the stronghold. There might be some treasure hidden there." "Oh?" Jun Changxiao's face was full of surprise. A few hundred miles away, there was a natural valley. Jun Changxiao rushed over and summoned the treasure finder. He found that there was no movement, so he questioned, "Are you sure there is a treasure here?" Paige walked to an open space, then closed her eyes. Her body was surrounded by the earth attribute, and she became one with the earth. A moment later, she opened her eyes and said, I'm sure. The specific location. It's right under my feet. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and dig. Yes. Paige took a few steps back. Her body suddenly shook, and the earth attribute energy was released. Then, it turned into a huge bucket and began to dig crazily. In a moment, she had dug hundreds of feet into the ground. Lanxiang's digging master. Master. After a while, Paige's voice came from the deep pit. There's a stone door. Shwa. Jun Changshao jumped down. At the bottom, there was a stone door that emitted an ancient aura. There were words engraved on it, and the content was only by embedding the sparkling jade in the groove can the restriction be lifted and enter. It's the same way as the sheepskin scroll. Could it be that a heaven-level treasure is hidden here? Master. Paige said, this stone door is very hard. I can't open it. Jun Changshao walked forward and carefully examined the words on the stone surface. He found that the color of the jade was slightly different from the surrounding color, so he raised his finger and pointed at it. Rumble. The stone door trembled slightly and slowly opened from the bottom to the top. Paige said, Master is so powerful. It's a basic skill. Jun Changshao said casually. If old Ding was present, he would definitely collapse. After all, he was the one who discovered this method. Master, do you want to go in? Lead the way in front. Yes. Shua Page went in first, and Jun Changshao followed closely behind. Inside was a deep and long tunnel, about a few hundred steps away. One man and one beast stopped in the spacious cave. Of course. Along the way, there were many mechanisms and traps. Poor Page was in the lead and had arrows all over his body, like a hedgehog. Don't move. Jun Changshao said, I'll help you pull out the arrows. Master actually helped me pull out the arrows personally. God, happiness came too suddenly. Page was at a loss for what to do. Shwa! 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 Jun Changshao waved his hand and all the arrows flew away. Sizzle! Blood spurted out like a fountain. Master! Page staggered and rolled his eyes. I feel a little dizzy. How could he not feel dizzy when blood spurted out like that? Shwa! Jun Changshao took out the gate palm ball and kept it to heal. Then, he carefully observed the stone cave and found that there was nothing special except for a stone platform in the center. Is it a heavenly treasure? While thinking, Go Sheng walked over. There was no soil on the stone platform, nor was there any heavenly treasure. There was a statue that looked like a ferocious beast. It was squatting with its forelimbs and ears raised. This is, Jun Changshao muttered to himself, Maneki Niko? P.S. My son has a spermatic cord hydrocele. He will go to the provincial hospital on Sunday. If it is confirmed, he will have to undergo a minimally invasive surgery. The surgery is not major, but it will take 3 to 5 days. Plus the round trip, it will take about a week. Chapter 10-11. From the posture of the stone statue, it looked like a fortune cat. But from the ferocious head, it looked like a demon from hell. Jun Changshao held his chin and said, If there is a pair of bat-like wings on the back, it looks like a gargoyle. Swish! He raised his hand and grabbed the stone statue. Whoosh! Suddenly, the stone statue trembled slightly, and its eyes flashed with a red light. Jun Changshao thought it was a trap and was about to let go, but the light disappeared and the trembling stopped. Everything returned to normal. Strange. Jun Changshao said, What happened just now? He didn't think much and took the stone statue down and kept it in his space ring. Buzz! Buzz! Suddenly, the stone cave began to tremble violently, and the stone slabs under his feet gradually separated. Not good. Jun Changshao's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly got up and rushed into the tunnel. Because from the situation, the stone cave seemed to be about to collapse. As expected, he strode into the tunnel. The area he was in suddenly caved in and then collapsed on a large scale. huge stones fell from above. Boom! Boom! The collapse was still ongoing. Jun Changshao ran all the way, and the tunnel behind him collapsed one after another. It felt like he was shooting a Hollywood movie. Of course. The protagonist would definitely not fall. At most, he would get through it safely. Even if he inevitably fell, there would be another world below. He would then obtain an opportunity and amaze the world. Jun Changshao ran wildly, his tongue hanging out. If it weren't for the space restriction and the damned aura suppression, he would have been sent flying. Whoosh! After a while, Jun Changshao finally rushed out of the stone door. Then, he kicked his feet and flew toward the deep pit. At that moment, the perfect embodiment of fast and furious. Boom! The moment he flew up, the deep pit dug by Page suddenly caved in, and the ground within a radius of thousands of feet collapsed. Jun Changshao hovered in midair, looking down at the pit that seemed to be caused by a small meteorite impact. He raised his hand and wiped the sweat off his forehead, saying, "How exciting." At this moment, he discovered that many warriors had gathered around him. Jun Changshao was looking at them, and they were also looking at Jun Changshao. Their expressions were very interesting. It turned out that after the stone door was activated, a strange phenomenon of heaven and earth rose up outside. In just a moment, it attracted a lot of people. All the cultivators hurried over in a panic. Before he could figure out what was going on, he saw Jun Changshao flying out of the flickering pit. Oh heavens! Oh, the earth! Why was he always in a place where fortuitous opportunities appeared? Everyone! Jun Changshao said indifferently, "The treasure has already been obtained by me. Do you want to snatch it?" "No, no, no." A cultivator hurriedly said, "I'm just passing by." Swish! As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared. The cultivators from the other plains didn't dare to stay here for a second longer. They all used their movement techniques and slipped away. Although opportunities were important, their lives were more important. No one dared to challenge that guy, because the scene of him slaughtering tens of thousands of people was still vivid in their minds. Boring. Seeing that they had all run away, Jun Changshao gave up on the idea of using the irretrievable blade. He then set off to return to the stronghold and said happily, "Peppa still has a treasure hunting function." The system said, "After all, it's an Earth-type beast. As long as the treasure is hidden underground, it should be able to detect it." Jun Changshao said, "It can dig the ground and hunt for treasures. This is my precious baby." The system, when it didn't have this function, he used it as a coolie. Now that it had become his precious baby, could he not be more shameless? Swish! Jun Changshao flew back to the stronghold. He landed on the floating mountain. Because he had obtained a fortuitous opportunity and complied with the rules of the upper realm, the area immediately expanded to the size of a town. As expected. Jun Changshao said, "Divine level." After finding and bringing back the Jade Clear Profound Spirit, the area had increased so much. Therefore, the stone statue must be of the same level. If I find a few more, a large city will be just around the corner. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. He then hurried back to the sect and headed to Medical Peak. What was he doing? To treat the wounds of his precious baby. My name is Paige. I'm panicking now. Because Master is suddenly very warm to me, I'm at a loss. Come, open your mouth. In the ward, Jun Changshao held a soup spoon and said with a smile, "Drink the medicine." Paige opened its mouth and swallowed the bitter medicine. It said with tears in its eyes, "Master. You're too good to me." Jun Changshao put down the bowl and spoon and patted its head. He said gently, "You're my first contracted beast. It's only right that I treat you well." Paige heard this and tears fell like rain. Ever since it became a contracted beast, ever since it came to the sect of all times, it had been doing the most tiring work and living the most difficult days. Usually, when it was lazy, it would be threatened with 18 kinds of weapons. Now, finally, the bitterness was over and the sweetness was coming. If it were not for the bandages all over its body, Paige might have rushed out of the ward and stood on the peak of the mountain to roar to express its excitement. Rest well. Jun Changshao said, I'll come to see you tomorrow. Master. Paige said, my injuries are nothing. How can I trouble you all the time? Jun Changshao leaned over and said seriously, since that's the case, you can leave the hospital tomorrow and follow me to the battlefield to conquer the world. Okay. Paige's blood instantly burned. The next day, Jun Changshao woke up early and dragged Paige, who was still sleeping soundly, into the dimensional battlefield. Huff, huff. Huff, huff, huff. In a barren land, the earth element was surging wildly. Master. After a while, Paige looked up and said, there's a treasure 10 miles ahead. Dig it out. Yes. Swoosh. 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 Paige rushed over and started digging with all her might. Soon, another sealed cave hidden deep underground was discovered. Swoosh. Light flashed and shot into the sky. Another fortuitous opportunity appeared. Oh my God, from the aura, it seems to be the same as the previous 2 times. Go. 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 Swoosh. Swoosh. All the martial artists moved. However, when they arrived at the scene and saw Jun Changshao walking out of the cave, they disappeared at the fastest speed like a mouse seeing a cat. Oh my God. Why is he here again? If Jun Changshao wasn't here, the heaven and earth anomaly wouldn't have been triggered in advance. Swoosh. That afternoon, the light soared into the sky again. It's here again. Everyone, look up. Do fortuitous opportunities cost money? They appear so many times in one day. In the beginning, such powerful heaven and earth anomaly could still shock all the martial artists. However, as they appeared one after another and Jun Changshao was present, not only were they used to it, but no one dared to go over. Swoosh. Swoosh. When dusk came, a few more light beams appeared. Wife, come out with the bull demon king to see God. This was what Uncle Da said in Journey to the West after Joker used the Moonlight Cache consecutively. Uncle Da was paralyzed in front of the stone door, and this sentence was used to describe all the martial artists. Chapter 10-12. In just one day, with Paige's help, Jun Changshao found 4 heaven-level opportunities. Because they were all immature treasures, they could not provide any substantial help for the time being. However, as long as he brought them back to the falling star continent, their size would increase rapidly. Awesome! Looking at the falling star continent's stronghold that had already reached the size of a medium-sized city, Jun Changshao grinned. The epic mission had reached the maximum level, and the rewards were definitely rich. City Lord Han, Mu Changhong, and the others were completely stunned. They really couldn't understand what Jun Patriarch had done. Every time he came back, the stronghold would expand. The next day, the space outside the stronghold distorted, and 2 battlefield spirits appeared. The upper realm couldn't help but rely on the treasure to steal the earth-level opportunity. Now that they were crazily stealing the heaven-level opportunity, they definitely wouldn't just stand by and watch. Patriarch. Li Qingyang transmitted his voice, the battlefield spirits are here again. From the aura, it seems to be 2 heaven-level. Jun Changshao rushed over when he heard the news. From the aura of the battlefield spirits, he could tell that they were definitely heaven-level. Thus, he said speechlessly, the level of punishment from the upper realm is getting higher and higher. The system said, 1 heaven level is easy to deal with, 2 is not. Hall Master Z. Jun Chang smiled and said, you go and take the lead. The corner of the Purple King's mouth twitched. It was already very difficult to fight 1 heaven-level battlefield spirit. Now that he had to face 2, he would definitely be defeated. Patriarch. He said seriously, I can only fight 1. I'll leave the other to you. Jun Changshao thought for a moment and said, all right. Outside the stronghold. The Purple King's gaze locked onto a battlefield spirit. Jun Changshao also came out. He waved at another battlefield spirit and said, "Come, baby." City Lord Han and the others on the floating mountain were speechless. It was undeniable that the patriarch of the sect of all times was not simple. However, sometimes he didn't act like a sect leader at all, but more like a child who hadn't grown up. Jun Changshao was like that. He was very cheap and mischievous, always acting indecently. Of course. He had been a patriarch for a few years now, and his body was already brewing the tyrannical aura of someone who had been in power for a long time. Once he was provoked, once he was enraged, he would definitely explode. Swish! Swish! The eyes of the two battlefield specters glowed, as if they had just woken up from their slumber. One of them locked onto Jun Changshao, while the other locked onto the Purple King. The division of labor was very clear. Hoo-hoo! Hoo-hoo! His powerful aura burst forth, and he instantly rushed over. Ta! The Purple King took a step forward and charged towards a battlefield specter like a cannonball. Both parties instantly engaged in a fierce battle in the air. Boom! 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 Waves of energy surged to the heavens, wantonly destroying space. In just a short exchange, City Lord Han and the others concluded that the strength of this battlefield specter was not inferior to the one that had appeared before. If they were to fight against it, they would definitely be beaten up. Boom! A loud noise came from the other side. Everyone turned around and saw that there was a pair of mechanical wings behind Jun Changshao's back, swaying left and right to dodge the cold blade aura. Swish! Swish! The sky battlefield specter held a scythe-shaped weapon and frequently waved it in the air. Arcs of blade aura that tore through space mercilessly swept over. Boom boom boom. Relying on the mechanical wings, Jun Changshao flew rapidly in the rain of bullets, but he also felt a huge pressure because the blade aura that flew past him was too powerful. If he could not dodge it, he would definitely be severely injured. In terms of strength alone, he was definitely not a match for the sky battlefield specter, but because of the magically modified vacuum cleaner, as long as he got close, based on the current situation, it was impossible to get close at all. Boom! Boom! Several streams of light tore through space and arrived. After Jun Changshao barely dodged them, he said to himself, "If this continues, it will be even harder to get close." "Use hard to stop," the system said. Jun Changshao said, "It's a waste to use the opening seal talisman on one target." As his strongest trump card and only 2 opening seal talismans, unless it was a last resort, he was really reluctant to use it. Not to mention, a good blade should be used on the back of the blade. If he couldn't turn the situation into a lawnmower game and only target one person, it would be tantamount to losing the meaning of acting cool. The system was speechless. If you don't use hard to stop, how can you defeat it? Based on the current situation, the host won't be able to delay until Hall Leader Z is free. Boom! Boom! Another 2 blade auras flew past him. Jun Changshao flew high into the sky and waved one hand, taking out the stone statue that he had obtained earlier and said, "This thing might be able to provide me with some help." Fuck! The system said, "Forget about it." Swish! 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 The battlefield specter flew up from the bottom, waving its black scythe crazily, forming a blade aura that tore through space. Jun Changshao barely dodged and grabbed the stone statue with one hand, saying, "Hurry up and give me the memory." After stealing so many fortuitous opportunities in the dimensional battlefield, he gradually figured out the pattern. As long as the equipment was a treasure, its memory would be sealed and passed on to the owner. Swish! Swish! Several blade auras that tore through space came pressing down again. Jun Changshao could only dodge in a panic while trying to communicate with the stone statue with various postures. In the end, there was no response. Damn it! How do I use this thing? Swish! 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 The battlefield specter continued to attack, waving its black scythe again and again, cutting the space piece by piece. Jun Changshao could still barely dodge at first, but as the opponent started to attack, it was obviously very difficult for him to dodge. As for the stone statue in his hand, he was about to crush it, but there was still no response. He was so frustrated that he wanted to vomit blood. The system said, "Some treasures need blood to activate." "Host, you can try." Jun Changshao barely dodged the blade auras and sword auras. He didn't care whether it was reliable or not, biting his thumb and pressing it on the stone statue. Swish! His blood was instantly absorbed upon contact. "It's working." Jun Changshao was overjoyed, but in the next second, his expression changed drastically. Because the blood in his body was out of control, it immediately rushed into the stone statue. Fuck! This is killing me. After the stone statue absorbed a large amount of blood, it started to flicker with red light. Swish! A strange memory instantly rushed into Jun Changshao's consciousness. Because it was forcibly injected, the intense pain caused his expression to gradually become ferocious. After a few seconds, the pain dissipated. Jun Changshao's furrowed brows relaxed, and he said in realization, "I see." Swish! Swish! Suddenly, a few cold blade auras flew over from afar. Jun Changshao turned his hands and fixed the stone statue in front of him. Transform! Buzz! The stone statue floating in front of Jun Changshao flickered with a red light and instantly turned into thousands of rays of light that wrapped around Jun Changshao's body. Red lines appeared on his exposed skin, as if they were some kind of ancient seal. Swish! Swish! At this moment, a few cold blade auras with terrifying power blasted over and exploded in midair, flickering with dazzling light. It's over. Jun Patriarch has been hit. City Lord Han and Mu Changhong suddenly became nervous. Judging from the situation just now, Jun Changshao couldn't compete with the battlefield spirit. Now that he was hit by the blade auras, it would definitely be very troublesome. However, the light gradually weakened, and the battle area became clear. The two immediately widened their eyes. Everyone in the sect of all times was also stunned. The Purple King, who was fighting with the battlefield spirit in the sky, looked back and exclaimed, "Fuck." Jun Changshao stood in midair, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing an evil smile. The camera cut to the distance and saw that this guy had transformed from head to toe. His appearance was extremely similar to the stone statue, and could no longer be described as human. Swish! The space vibrated, and light flashed. Just when everyone was shocked, Jun Changshao had already appeared behind the battlefield spirit, and like a fierce beast, his fist smashed over. With a bang, he directly hammered the other party to the ground. This kind of terrifying speed and power instantly stunned everyone present. Swish! The battlefield spirit flew up again, raised its black sickle and was about to, wait. Where's my sickle, where's my sickle? Its sickle had already run to Jun Changshao's hands. After observing for a while, he murmured, looking at the level of this weapon, it should not be weaker than the earth character. Everyone's mouth twitched. When did this guy take away the other party's weapon? However, Jun Changshao held the sickle tightly and shook his head. In front of me, it's like trash. Crack! Under the pressure of the powerful force, the black sickle suddenly cracked, and then exploded with a bang, and gradually disappeared in midair. City Lord Han, Mu Changhong, and the others' eyes almost popped out. Judging from the aura of the weapon held by the battlefield spirit, it was not weaker than the high-level Saint-grade weapon of the Falling Star continent, but it was easily crushed by him. This was really too wasteful. The Purple King frowned and said, his current strength has probably reached the heaven level. Could it be that he used some kind of powerful ability? He Wudi and Yixingchen were also thinking. The more the three of them thought, the more shocked they were. In fact, Jun Changshao did not use any ability, but turned into a stone statue with extraordinary combat power. Therefore, the thing he got was similar to the universal talisman, which could increase the user's strength. Swish! Without a weapon, the battlefield spirit gathered strength in its fists and rushed over. However, just as it was about to reach Jun Changshao, the latter suddenly punched out in the void, and a violent force from an ancient beast pressed down on it. Boom! Boom! The battlefield spirit crashed to the ground, and the extraordinary armor was dented by the fist. The Purple King's mouth twitched. Isn't this too fierce? Swish! Jun Changshao swooped down and waved his beast-like arms. Fist after fist landed on the ground, causing the ground to sink and dust to roll up. When everything was over and everything returned to normal, he hovered at a low altitude, and his beast-like body emitted a domineering aura. As for the sky battlefield spirit, in the center of the deep pit, its armor was shattered, and the light in its eyes was completely dim. It was dead. Completely dead. Swish! The falling star continent's stronghold increased rapidly, and the area increased by a lot. After taking care of his target, Jun Changshao raised his head and looked at the other battlefield specter who was fighting the purple craggy demon monarch. Boom! 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 The Purple King's mouth twitched violently as he hovered in the air. Because the opponent was lying in the deep pit at this moment, its armor shattered, and it had completely lost its mind and consciousness. The battlefield spirit that was comparable to Wu Sheng at the great perfection level was so easily ravaged after that guy changed his appearance. It was simply too terrifying. The patriarch is so strong. What kind of martial arts technique is that? Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others looked at Jun Changshao, who was standing proudly in the air, with strong admiration in their eyes. The most shocked ones were City Lord Han and the others. They looked at Go Sheng as if they were looking at a monster. Jun Changshao, who had turned into a stone statue, was indeed a monster from the depths of hell. Swish! The Purple King landed. He was about to return to the stronghold, but after taking 2 steps, he saw Jun Changshao suddenly holding his head and screaming in pain. Ah! His face was ferocious, and red lines appeared all over his body. His originally clear eyes became cloudy and gradually turned red, giving off the feeling that he was slowly losing his mind. The Purple King's mouth twitched as he said, "Don't tell me he's going berserk?" The intense pain did not last for long. Jun Changshao gradually stopped screaming and turned his head, locking his eyes on Hall Master Z. He grimaced and said, "I haven't had my fill yet." Swish! 2 sharp teeth protruded out, and a ruthless aura surrounded him. Not good. Boom dang. Dang. The Purple King blocked with both hands in front of his body, and his body was pushed back uncontrollably. In the end, he only managed to stabilize himself after retreating a few hundred meters. His entire face was contorted in anger. Jun Changshao, who was originally standing, clenched his fists and said with bloodshot eyes, "Too weak." The Purple King endured the pain from his arms and roared, "Are you crazy?" Swish! Jun Changshao appeared in front of him, causing his pupils to shrink. Boom! 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 In an instant, a violent energy exploded outside the stronghold. This, City Lord Han and the others were dumbfounded. They really did not understand why Jun Patriarch was fighting with their Hall Master. Judging from the intensity of his attacks, it was completely merciless. It was a rhythm of torture. 15 minutes later, Jun Changshao stood on the cracked ground. The lines covering his body gradually dissipated, and he returned to normal. Then, he covered his head with one hand and said, "My head hurts." Just now. What happened? The stone statue appeared out of nowhere and fell to his feet. When the explosive pain gradually dissipated, Jun Changshao picked it up. Suddenly, he found the Purple King in the shape of a swastika, covered in bruises and sunken in a deep pit. He shouted angrily, "Who did this?" Plop! Plop! All the martial artists on the floating mountain fell to the ground. Chapter 10:13. Jun Changshao, who was supported by the stone statue, completely defeated 2 heavenly battlefield spirits. It was obvious how powerful he was. However, after gaining power, he even beat up his own people. This was a bit too much. To be honest, Jun Changxiao's irrational state at that time was the cute and resistant Hall Master Z. If it was old Ding and the others, they would have been dead long ago. I did it? Yes. Did I really do it? Yes. After confirming it again and again, Jun Changxiao, who was sitting in the main hall, took out the stone statue that suddenly turned him into a devil and said in despair, "This thing is poisonous." His memory stopped at when he defeated the second heavenly battlefield spirit. He had no idea what happened after that. The system said, at that time, a force instantly rushed into the host's sea of consciousness and took control of the body. Jun Changxiao became serious. Although the stone statue could give him power in a short period of time, it would control his mind and body, causing him to do things that would harm his teammates. This was a serious problem. No. Jun Changxiao said, "This thing is evil, I can't use it anymore." Although it felt good to be supported by a powerful force, it was definitely unacceptable to lose one's rationality. Moreover, if it was Li Qingyang and the others outside at that time, he would have made an irreparable mistake by attacking them. Thinking of this, Jun Changxiao felt a chill down his spine. The system said, therefore, the treasures in the system store are still reliable. This kind of thing from the upper realm can make people strong, but the side effects are completely uncontrollable. Raising the prices of the store and degrading the opportunities of the upper realm. A qualified salesman. Yes. Jun Changxiao looked at the stone statue in his hand and said, "A treasure that made me lose my rationality, even if it's strong enough to destroy the world, I can't use it anymore." Shwa! He threw it into the space ring and placed it in a remote corner. He did not throw it away, because if he encountered danger in the future, he might be able to use it, but the premise was that there were no disciples present. Creak! The door of the ward was pushed open and Jun Changxiao walked in. The Purple King, who had been lying on the bed with his legs crossed and humming a tune, hurriedly turned to his side. He covered his waist with one hand and cried out in pain, "Ouch, ouch, my waist." Although her acting skills were still a little green, she was obviously much better than before. Hall Master Z. Jun Changxiao sat down and said apologetically, "Sorry to have wronged you." The Purple King grimaced and said, "My bones are about to fall apart. Patriarch, you should at least do something." Jun Changxiao said, "This month's beast cores will be doubled." The Purple King's eyes lit up as he thought to himself, it was worth the beating. Wang. He had really changed. For the sake of his clansmen and resources, he was able to accept many things. If it was in the past, not to mention being beaten up, even if a strand of hair was touched, he would have to fight back. Patriarch. The Purple King stopped acting and said with a serious expression, "Although the magical power you used yesterday is strong, you will lose your rationality. Don't use it casually in the future. Otherwise, you will implicate the disciples of the sect." Although he had always believed that he was enduring humiliation and enduring hardships, his feelings for the sect of all times were truly improving. What he said today was enough to prove everything. Similar to Hall Master Z, there was also the arrogant Yi Xingqian. Even though the two of them had always denied it, they had already developed deep feelings for this sect that had allowed them to become stronger. This was not. After witnessing Jun Changxiao defeating the two heaven battlefield ghosts, even though it was already dusk on the battlefield, Yi Anyo was still actively participating in the construction and diligently contributing to the sect. Second senior brother. Xiao Ziji said, "It seems that junior brother Yi has truly integrated into the sect." "That's right," Li Qingyang said with relief. As the first disciple to enter the sect, the two of them could see that Yi Xingqian was very proud and aloof. He had always been incompatible with the sect. Now that he could focus on the construction, it meant that he had completely integrated into the sect and become a member. There's also eldest senior sister. Li Qingyang looked at Lu Qianqian, who was standing at the top of the mountain with her white clothes fluttering in the wind, and murmured, "When will she be able to put aside her cold personality and mingle with her fellow sect members?" Xiao Ziji shook his head and said, "Eldest senior sister specializes in the ice element. I'm afraid it will be very difficult." After getting rid of the two battlefield ghosts, the area of the stronghold expanded by a lot. It was already very close to the scale of a large city. I should be able to reach it after finding 2 or 3 more heaven-level opportunities. On the main peak, Jun Gosheng was smiling. There were still more than 2 months before the 9th settlement of the epic mission, and the city would soon reach the scale of a large city. The progress was still very fast. As for the 10th epic mission, right? Jun Changshao slapped his forehead and said, "The battle between the Totem Continent and the Starry Crescent Continent is today. I can go and take a look." Whoosh! As he spoke, he had already flown out of the stronghold. The slaughtering Azura field was located in the most central area of the battlefield. It was surrounded by a flowing light barrier, like a closed bull ring. When looking for opportunities, Jun Changshao had passed by it many times, but because there was no one inside, and there was no battle, he just took a look and left. Now, when he rushed over and looked through the transparent flowing light barrier, he found that there were 2 groups of people in different clothes gathered inside. From the number of people, there were about 4 to 5,000. As expected, Jun Changshao said to himself, "The forces of the 2 planes have been gathered." This kind of large-scale battle was very rare in the plain battlefield. Unless there was some opportunity, they had to fight for it. The slaughtering Azura field covered an area of dozens of miles. The surrounding barrier had warriors from different planes gathering one after another, quietly waiting for a feast of killing to take place. Of course, there were also warriors who came to Jun Changshao's area. When they saw that this fierce person was also there, they hurriedly changed the spectator area and kept an absolute distance. More and more warriors gathered outside the flowing light barrier, watching the battle from different positions and different areas. Their eyes shone with anticipation. Jun Changshao enjoyed a quiet area alone. He crossed his arms and kept staring at the 2 groups of people inside. They did not attack immediately. Instead, they stood on 2 sides with swords drawn and bows drawn. Then, they seemed to be discussing something. The warriors outside could see everything inside clearly, but they could not hear anything. Therefore, they could not know whether the 2 planes were talking tough or mocking each other desperately. Aha! After waiting for 15 minutes, Jun Changshao yawned. "Damn it! Should I take a nap first?" At this moment, the 2 groups finally moved. They instantly flew high into the sky. All kinds of energy lights flashed, and the fiercest fight began. "They're finally here. Although I can't hear the sounds of battle, judging from the momentum, it must be very fierce. Those few flying high in the sky are probably all Earth characters." The 2 planes in the slaughtering Azura field engaged in a fierce battle. The warriors outside watched the battle and discussed. Jun Changshao was also watching. Moreover, he was more focused than the others. Soon, he realized that these warriors were fighting without regard for their lives. "Dear participants, entering the slaughtering Azura field, you either live or die." The female system prompted. "Cruel." Jun Changshao shook his head. Because there was no sound, even if the battle was exciting, there was no fighting effect, so it looked quite uncomfortable. 2 hours later, under the crazy battle between the 2 planes, at least 1,000 warriors fell from the sky and lay motionless on the ground. It was obvious that they had already died. Jun Changshao could not help but sigh. Those who are weaker can only die. The upper realm. You treat the mortal creatures as weeds. Looking at the warriors fighting to their deaths in the slaughtering Azura field, Jun Changshao suddenly felt a nameless anger. He looked up at the sky angrily. This place focused on killing, was it not more like a large-scale coliseum? He and everyone else who came in were just chess pieces used by the upper realm to play games and watch. "I'm not happy. I'm not happy." According to the traditional rhythm, the protagonist would be shouting, "I want to defy the heavens." However, Jun Changshao's brain circuits suddenly changed, and he thought to himself, "Find a plane to put on a show, take the underworld pill and play dead in the slaughtering Azura field. The upper realm shouldn't find out, right? The system said, very thoughtful. Chapter 10:14. The rule of the slaughtering Azura field was that both planes must send enough warriors into the field to fight. Only the side that survived to the end would be considered the winner. Unless their strength was overwhelming, which plane did not suffer heavy casualties or even perish together. Jun Changshao watched the battle for a few hours and witnessed the desperate battle between the Totem Continent and the Starry Crescent Land. He also realized that as long as they entered, they would have to fight to the death. Since that was the case and he had the underworld pill, why not find a plane that he had a good relationship with and pretend to be dead and muddle through? Jun Changshao was not a warmonger. Going to the slaughtering Azura field was only to complete the epic mission. If there were no casualties and it was completed smoothly, everyone would be happy. The system was a little speechless. If he relied on the underworld pill to complete the mission, he would be suspected of exploiting a bug. The 10th epic mission only stated that he had to find a plane to enter the slaughtering Azura field to fight. If he were to use the pill to muddle through, it would be a complete loophole. If the system had a physical body, it would definitely open Go Shing's skull to see what was in his head to come up with such a strange idea. Of course. Jun Changshao was a little doubtful now. Would the upper realm notice if he took the underworld pill? If he was seen through and was not recognized, the epic mission would be difficult to complete, and there would be no point in it. The female system said, the upper realm only sets the rules, they will not monitor all the time. Dear participant, you can try. Mwah. This was why Go Sheng liked it. When he was hesitating, it would always provide timely care and advice. On the other hand, the other system would either take the opportunity to attack or make sarcastic remarks. Sigh. They were both systems, why was there such a big difference? The system that liked to complain, bicker, and sharp-tongued felt that its position was in danger of being shaken by the female system. It hurriedly said, the goods in the store are very powerful, the upper realm will definitely not notice. Jun Changshao thought about it again and made a decision, then let's try. The herbs needed for the underworld pill were ordinary and the refining time was not long. It could be mass-produced. The only thing missing was a plain partner. Lingyuan Continent. After being on the battlefield for so long, Jun Changshao's enemies had circled the earth hand in hand. But when it came to friends, they were only in this dimension. After all, they had worked together many times. He did not act immediately. Instead, he continued to observe the battle between the two planes. Until dusk. After thousands of people fought, there were only a few dozen survivors. The warriors of the Totem Continent were more skillful than the warriors of the Starry Crescent Land, so they were able to defeat the Starry Crescent Land at the cost of their own lives. Swish! Swish! After the battle ended, the corpses were sent out. The warriors from the two planes, who had already made preparations outside, began to collect the corpses of their own people. Then, they glared at each other and left. Seeing this, Jun Changshao was even more determined to find a partner to play dead with. In the stronghold of the Lingyuan Continent. Sitting in the main hall, the Valley Master of the 100 Leaves Valley, Kuji Nan, had an interesting expression on her face. Not long ago, the Falling Star Continent sent a letter personally written by Jun Changshao. The content of the letter was, "We will declare war on your continent at the slaughterhouse. Please cooperate when the time comes. Big brother. Big brother. Azura slaughtering arena. The Lingyuan Continent can't cooperate with this game. When extorting money, she acted as a support. When sparring, she acted as a sparring partner. Kuji Nan could do her best to cooperate. But in the slaughterhouse, she would have to fight to the death. No, no. The Lingyuan Continent can't help with this." Kuji Nan sent the letter that day. Seeing that she refused, Jun Changshao had to arrange a meeting place. A few hundred miles away from the Falling Star Continent's stronghold, there was a mountain that was even more arrogant than Anyo at night. At this moment, On the flat ground at the top of the mountain, there was a table and a few chairs. Jun Changshao and Ku Jinnan sat on the east and west sides. An earth-ranked warrior from the Lingyuan continent sat on the north side. The three of them formed a triangle. Smack! Gosheng slammed one hand on the table and said solemnly, "Call the landlord." "No! No!" Ku Jinnan and the earth-ranked warrior shouted one after another. Jun Changshao took back the 3 cards that he had bet. Looking at the 2 kings and 4 twos in his hand, he grinned and said, "You two, you are going to lose again." The corners of Ku Jinnan and the earth-ranked warrior's mouths twitched violently. They were invited to this place for a meeting by this guy, but he didn't say a word about business. Instead, he used something called poker to teach them how to play a game called Fight the Landlord. June Patriarch. Ku Jinnan covered the trash card on the table and said seriously, "Let's get down to business." "That's right." The earth-ranked warrior agreed, "The game can be played at any time." This was not the time to play a few bombs in the first 2 rounds, and when he played, he stepped on the stool with 1 foot and shook it with all his strength. "All right." Jun Changshao threw the cards on the table, clasped his fingers together, and said, "My falling star continent wants to go to the slaughtering Azura field. Your continent must cooperate." This, Ku Jinnan and the earth-ranked warrior's expressions changed. "Of course." Jun Changshao pushed a few space rings over and said, "The reward is 200,000 9 heavens continent 6-pointed star stones." 200,000, 6-pointed star stones? Ku Jinnan's eyes were immediately filled with shock. The 9 heavens continent's spirit stones, whether it was the strength or purity of their spirit chi, were far superior to his own spirit stones. One of them was even worth 10 of them. June Patriarch. Ku Jinnan pushed the rings over and said, "Entering the slaughtering Azura field, it's either you die or I live. My Lingyuan continent really can't help with this." Although the reward was generous, if it was exchanged with the lives of his own martial artists, he definitely wouldn't agree. Jun Changshao also knew the other party's difficulties. He took out a yellow spring pill and said, "This is a pill that can let people enter a state of suspended animation. The effect lasts for 24 hours. June means that you and I will send our martial artists into the slaughtering Azura field, pretend to fight, and then wait for an opportunity to take the pill and play dead." Play dead pill? Ku Jinnan and the earth-ranked warrior looked at each other. The two of them were able to learn Fight the Landlord quickly, so their IQ was not bad. They immediately understood Jun Changshao's meaning was to enter and pretend to fight, then use the play dead pill to bluff their way through. The idea was fine. However, was this play dead pill reliable? If it was discovered by the upper realm, it would be equivalent to cheating, and they would be severely punished. "Valley Master Ku, if you have any doubts, you can let this senior take it." Jun Changshao pushed the pill over. Ku Jinnan gave the earth-ranked warrior a look. 200,000 6-pointed star stones were equivalent to 2 million spirit stones. The temptation was still extremely great. If the play dead pill was effective, he was willing to take the risk. The timid would starve to death, and the bold would be stuffed to death. The earth-ranked warrior who accompanied them hesitated for a while before swallowing the pill. Then, he quickly collapsed to the ground and lost all signs of life. Ku Jinnan's expression changed, and he hurried over to check. The elder's face was pale, and his pulse and heart were not beating. He said in surprise, "Is it that magical?" To confirm further, he waved at a powerhouse who was proficient in medicine beside him. After a careful examination, the other party said solemnly, "Valley Master, Elder Do is indeed dead." Jun Changshao said, "Even an earth-ranked powerhouse like Valley Master Ku couldn't find him. The Qi Huang powerhouse has also been diagnosed as dead. As long as the upper realm doesn't send people down to check one by one, it'll be difficult to find him." Jun Patriarch. Ku Jinnan hurriedly said, "He'll wake up after 24 hours? Yes. Jun Changshao said, "However, you can also use water to wake him up, but you'll have to add ice first." Is that so? Kuji Nan prepared a basin of water and let the ice-type martial artist bless it. Then, he splashed it over. As expected, Elder Do, who was in the state of death, woke up and said blankly, "What happened?" Valley Master Ko. Go Sheng pushed the space ring with the 6-pointed star stones over and said, "Do you dare to play?" After a moment of consideration, Kuji Nan leaned over and lowered his voice. When Jun Changshao also leaned over and whispered, "Get ready first and wait for my news." "All right," Kuji Nan said. Jun Changshao raised his hand and said, "Happy working with you." "Happy working with you." The two of them shook hands with each other. Then, in close-up, a sinister smile appeared on their faces. Chapter 10-15. After discussing with the Lingyuan continent, Jun Changshao did not immediately carry out the plan of faking his death. First, he had to expand the stronghold to the size of a large city. Second, he had to prepare a large number of underworld pills. Under medical peak, Elder Wei looked at the brand new list of herbs and said, "These herbs are not of high grade. They will mature in about 10 days. Then let's plant a batch first," Jun Changshao instructed. "Okay." Go Sheng was quite assured when Elder Wei was in charge. He entered the interdimensional battlefield again and summoned City Lord Han and the others. Not only did the Lingyuan continent have to cooperate, but the Falling Star continent also had to cooperate. After all, the Sect of All Times alone could not gather 2,000 people. Everyone. Outside the main hall, Jun Changshao put his hands behind his back and said solemnly, "Jun has fought for the Falling Star continent and will no longer be bullied by outsiders. However, due to the rules of the upper realm, we have to fight in the crueler Shura field." City Lord Han and the others looked solemn. Some of them had gone to watch the battle between the Totem Continent and the Starry Crescent Continent yesterday. They had witnessed the crazy slaughter between the two planes and were all frightened. It was too cruel. It was too terrifying. Jun Patriarch. City Lord Han was the first to express his stance. "I am willing to shed my last drop of blood for the Falling Star Continent. I will have no regrets even if I die." What was the point of coming to the battlefield? Was it not a suicide mission? Since they could not hide in the Shura field, what was wrong with dying for the continent? "That's right," Mu Changhong said, "we are willing to sacrifice our lives for the continent. We will have no regrets even if we die. For the Falling Star continent, we will do anything." Everyone agreed. Even the Taishian Shengzong and the Bright Light Holy Sect, who had a problem with Jun Changshao, expressed their willingness to sacrifice their lives for the Falling Star continent. Personal grudges were nothing in the face of national affairs. The first batch of experts to enter the planar battlefield had long since been prepared to die in battle. If they could spend a few months in Jun Changshao's stronghold, then they would have profited for nothing. Thus, even if they knew that they would be executed, they would not hesitate in the slightest. On the main peak, a solemn aura gathered. That aura represented a backbone that was not afraid of death. Today, 2,000 powerful beings from the Falling Stars continent had marched to hell even though they knew that they were going to die. That was what it meant to have an iron heart and a lofty aspiration. Remember, the Sect of All Times was not only a comedy sect. It was also a hot-blooded. Jun Changshao was deeply affected by the people's willingness to sacrifice themselves. He took out the underworld pellet and said, "This pellet is called the underworld pellet. After taking it, you will enter a state of suspended animation. You will enter the Azura battlefield and eat it when you have the chance. It will help you overcome the danger." Fake death. There's such a pill in this world? Everyone was stunned. Jun Changshao continued, "Jun Changshao, am deeply moved by everyone's sacrifice for the Falling Star continent. Therefore, the Yellow Spring pellet, which was originally priced at 100,000, is now selling for 10,000 natural spiritual stones." City Lord Han and the others all fell to the ground. The system roared in its heart, "What do you mean by hot-blooded? It's obviously a comedy. Each of the 2,000 martial artists, entering the stronghold to avoid being bullied by other planes. Money is a given. You can't avoid the Shura field. You have to participate sooner or later. Giving money to save your life is a given. Go Sheng looked at the handsome Yu and said innocently, "Is this too much?" The system was speechless. "I don't know if it's too much. Anyway, I know that the host keeps asking for money. The powerhouses of the falling star continent must have been squeezed dry. So," Jun Changshao said, "I won't ask for it again in the future." The system rolled its eyes. Although it did not have eyes. Phew. Jun Changshao stood up, exhaled, and said, "Next, let's expand the stronghold to a large city." That day, he took Paige and began to wander around the battlefield. Every once in a while, a strange phenomenon would rise in the sky. The martial artists of all planes were used to it and did not take it seriously at all. City Lord Han and the others were not idle either. After buying the elixir, Jun Changshao reminded them that they must use it at the right time for it to be effective. When was the right time? Being pretended to be attacked and being half dead. Pretended? Wasn't it just a performance? Therefore, on the floating mountain, the powerhouses of all planes were thinking about how to make themselves half dead. The Lingyuan continent was also considering this problem. After all, entering the Shura field was not really a matter of life and death. One had to have excellent acting skills. Under normal circumstances. Before the battle between the two planes began, they would cultivate desperately to enrich themselves. Now, the falling star continent and the Lingyuan continent were desperately trying to improve their acting skills. Go Sheng was really good at leading the plot and the martial artists astray. Swoosh! Swoosh! At dusk, Jun Changshao and Paige returned. Because they found a few heaven-level opportunities, the stronghold expanded again. Patriarch Li Qingyang stood on the main peak and looked down at the vast space below. He said, "It has reached a large scale. Go ahead and build boldly." Yes. The next day, Li Qingyang and his fellow disciples began to build the newly expanded stronghold. Paige was very busy after digging for treasures and participating in the construction of the stronghold. 2 months later. With the help of the excavation master, the falling star continent's stronghold was fully completed. The 4 districts in the east, west, south, and north were like tigers and dragons. Above the central district, several mountains were suspended in the clouds. It was a magnificent sight. On the main peak, Jun Changshao sat on the training ground with 1 foot on it and 1 hand on it. Lu Qianshan, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen, Li Fei, Tian Qi, Zhou Hong, He Wudi, and the other core disciples stood with their hands behind their backs. The camera swept across them one by one and finally stopped on the plaque with the words, "The strongest sect of all times," engraved on it. "Come closer," Jun Changshao said. Swoosh! 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 Everyone took another step forward. Jun Changshao raised a long selfie stick and made a peace sign at the camera. He smiled brightly and said, "Babies, let's shout together. Paw!" A photo of the patriarch and the core disciples appeared with a magically modified camera. The photo was hung on the wall of the main hall of the sect of all times. It was to commemorate the completion of the stronghold's large-scale city. In the photo, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were smiling brightly. Lu Qianshan, who was standing close to Jun Changshao, had a cold expression. As for Yi Anyo, he had a proud side profile. Taishian Shengzong. Su Xiaoma was still sitting cross-legged on the 6th floor of the 10 Perfect Spirit Pagoda. The spiritual energy in his spirit core had transformed. He was not far from breaking through to Wu Huang. Patriarch. Senior sister, senior brother. Junior sister. My heart will always be with you. Ding! The stronghold on the falling star continent has become a large-scale city and meets the requirements. Epic quest completed. Completion rate, 200%. Host receives 50,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 10765070000. Ding! Sect contribution points overflow. A few days after the stronghold on the falling star continent was completed, Epic Quest 9 was automatically completed. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in the main hall, was calm. Although the quest was completed, the contribution points were not rewarded. He still had to complete another epic quest. Fortunately, Shirshir's quest would be completed immediately, so there was no need to wait for half a year. Qingyang. Jun Changshao ordered, send a letter to the Lingyuan continent. 3 days later, we will fight in the slaughtering Azura field. I don't have many chapters left. Starting tomorrow, I will have to reduce the chapters. 1 week is too long. I will try to keep updating during the treatment period. After I return, I will naturally make up for it. Of course, I will make up for it slowly. Not counting the 1 chapter 1 owed last time, in 1 week, 7 times 2 equals 4 chapters. Chapter 10-16. When the news was sent to the Lingyuan continent, Kuji-nan said that there was no problem. Everyone. Jun Changshao gathered City Lord Han and the others again. With his hands behind his back, he said, 3 days later, it will be of great importance to the falling star continent. I hope that everyone will take it seriously and not be careless. Using the underworld pill to fake death was a big problem, not to mention whether it could fool the upper realm, but whether it could fool the martial artists of various planes who came to watch the battle. Don't worry, Jun Patriarch. Mu Changhong said, we've made all the preparations. There won't be any mistakes. The disciples of the sect of all times had been busy with construction for the past 2 months. They had been studying the performance diligently and were familiar with all kinds of death methods. They were just waiting to show themselves on a bigger stage. It was the same in the Lingyuan continent. In order to ensure that there were no mistakes and that they would not be seen through, they put in a lot of effort into the performance of death. It was no exaggeration. They randomly chose a martial artist of the Lingyuan continent who was about to enter the Shura arena and put on an impromptu death performance. When touched, the martial artist would cover his chest and take a few steps back. He would say weakly and fearfully, "What a strong inner force. It hurt me." Before he could finish, he would fall to the ground and die. Qingyang. Jun Changshao ordered, spread the news. Let more cultivators know that the falling star continent and the spirit origin continent will be engaged in a bloody war. It will be a bloody battlefield. Yes. Li Qingyang left. Old Ding was puzzled. Patriarch, we're going to fake our deaths and let more people watch the battle. It'll be bad if we're found out. Jun Changshao explained, only when you complete the performance in front of everyone can you be considered a good actor. The upper realm might not send anyone to supervise. However, since they were going to play, they had to play it big so that they could not find fault with it. Real actors did not show off their acting skills in front of a mirror. Only when they walked onto the stage and faced the audience and received their approval and applause could they be considered successful. At night, Jun Changshao sat in the main hall of the stronghold, reading the self-cultivation of actors. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and the temperature dropped several degrees. He did not need to think to know that she was here. Patriarch. Lu Qianqian said, can I not participate? Why? Because I don't know how to play dead. As a 10,000-year-old iceberg face, performing in the 10 Directions life-ending tower was already very painful. Now that he had to fake his death, it would definitely be even more difficult. Jun Changshao closed the book and said, life is like a play, and everything depends on acting. If you don't work hard to change yourself, how can you adapt to the world in the future? Lu Qianqian, asking everyone to play dead is to adapt to the world? Actually, I also know that you're afraid of ruining the plan if you don't act well. Jun Changshao stood up and said with his back facing her, Qianqian, I'm really pleased that you're thinking about the sect now. Lu Qianqian was stunned. She had been with the patriarch for so many years, but this was the first time she saw him so serious from the back. But, Jun Changshao continued, the path of martial arts is destined to be long and endless. There may be difficulties and obstacles waiting for us in the future. You have to learn to face everything, because the junior brothers and sisters in the sect need you to protect them. Change yourself. It's also better for you to protect the people you care about. If it were Paige, she would have burst into tears after hearing her master's words. She would have erected a super strong will. However, Lu Qianqian was standing behind him. She said calmly, I will use my own way to protect my junior brothers and sisters, and not learn how to play dead. It was not that she could not let go of her identity, nor was it that she could not let go of her character. It was just that it was really difficult for her to act. Qianqian. Jun Changshao said, there are many kinds of death. Some are self-sacrificing, some are fearless, and some are for the country and the people. You can choose any one of them. Fully immerse yourself in the scene, and you'll naturally act it out. Do I have to go? Lu Qianqian asked. You have to go. Jun Changshao's attitude was very firm. He wanted his eldest disciple to make a change. Li Qingyang was gradually becoming a construction maniac. Yi Xingqian was condescending to do manual labor for the divine armament. Lu Qianqian was the only core disciple of the sect of all times who could be considered normal. Eldest senior sister. Please stay true to your heart. Don't be bewitched by Go Sheng. Alright. Lu Qianqian compromised. Since the patriarch is not worried that I'll mess up my acting, then I can only go to the slaughterhouse. Come, come. Jun Changshao waved his hand and said, I'll teach you how to act. No need. Lu Qianqian said, it's late. I'm going to rest. Watching his eldest disciple leave, Jun Changshao shook his head and said, changing this woman's character is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The system said, Qingyang and Sinner have been led astray by the host. If the eldest disciple also falls, the sect of all times will have no normal people. Big news! The falling star continent and the spirit origin continent will fight to the death at the slaughterhouse in 3 days. How did the spirit origin continent offend Jun Changshao? Why would they be declared war? This plane seems to be only in the 5th or 6th echelon. How dare they accept the challenge so easily? I heard that Jun Changshao brought people to the spirit origin continent's stronghold and cursed outside for 3 days and 3 nights. The Valley Master of the 100 Leaves Valley couldn't help but agree. This is too much. This is too much. Sigh, poor spirit origin continent. I'm afraid they'll be crushed by the falling star continent. The news of the battle between the falling star continent and the spirit origin continent spread on the battlefield. All the martial artists were optimistic about the former and pessimistic about the latter. City Master. In the 9 Heavens continent's stronghold, an elder said, what do you think? Mo Shangsheng was puzzled. Kuji Nan of the spirit origin continent has a normal brain. Why would she agree in anger? Unless, he looked up and said with a serious expression, the upper realm is pressuring them. They must enter the slaughterhouse with the falling star continent. The elder understood. City Master, you mean that according to the rules, the falling star continent must enter the slaughterhouse. The other planes don't dare to accept the challenge and can only force the star origin continent to fight? That's right. Mo Shangsheng said solemnly. In this era where the villains were brainless and the passers-by were surprised, it wasn't easy to find a supporting character with a decent IQ. However, under the interference of leftovers' unconventional actions, he walked down a path of no return that was absolutely wrong as long as he made deductions. The falling star continent is not simple, the elder said with some fear. Sigh. Mo Shangsheng said enviously, it's good to have people in the upper realm. Are we going to watch the battle in 3 days? We're not going. Mo Shangsheng said solemnly, last time, the battlefield ghosts came to fight. The other planes failed to watch the battle and were extorted a lot of spirit stones. If something bad happens again this time, we'll have to pay to avoid the disaster again. City Master, you're so considerate. The 9 Heavens continent did not want to watch the battle, but the other planes had forgotten the pain and decided to watch the battle in 3 days. Of course, they were also worried that they would be extorted by Jun Changshao again. They decided to wait until they all entered the slaughterhouse. Chapter 10:17. 3 days later. At the entrance of the slaughter Azura field, Jun Changshao flew over with the sect's upper echelons and disciples, as well as 2,000 powerhouses from the falling star continent. A moment later, led by Kujin Nan, thousands of warriors from the Lingyuan continent also came. Both sides glared at each other, their eyes almost sore. Some bold warriors hid in the distance. When they saw the strong fighting spirit and killing intent gathered at the entrance, they realized that there must be deep hatred between the two planes. Once they entered the slaughter Azura field, they would definitely kill you. Valley Master Ko. Jun Changshao sneered and said, I thought you didn't dare to come. Humph. Kujin Nan said, although the Lingyuan continent is not the first-tier plane on the battlefield, we still keep our word. Since we agreed to fight in the slaughter Azura field, we naturally won't run away. Jun Changshao raised his finger and shook it, saying lightly, since you're here, don't leave. Arrogant, domineering. It gave people the feeling that it was deep in their bones. Li Qingyang and the others were secretly amazed. The patriarch's acting skills were amazing. Even a look or a movement was acting. In comparison, although Kujin Nan's acting was not bad, there was obviously a gap. The warriors from various planes who did not know the truth saw it and were even more certain that as long as the two sides entered the slaughter Azura field, it would be an endless battle. The degree of fierceness was probably not inferior to that of the Totem continent and the Starry Crescent continent. Ha ha ha. There was a good show to watch again. Although many warriors from different planes were optimistic about the falling star continent, they actually hoped that the Lingyuan continent would bring them trouble. The best result was a Pyrrhic victory. On the plain battlefield, Go Sheng had many enemies. Due to his strength, they did not dare to provoke him openly. They could only fantasize about it behind his back. Humph. Kujin Nan sneered and said, it's useless to say more. Let's declare war. Jun Changshao did not say anything. He went to the front of the flowing light barrier and raised his hand at the same time as he did. This was a declaration of war mode. Only the leader of the stronghold representing the plane could do it. Until he received permission from the upper realm, he would be qualified to enter the slaughter Azura field. Valley Master Ko. Jun Changshao said, everything will go according to plan. Okay. Kujin Nan responded with a grunt. Although the two of them were communicating through voice transmission, on the surface, they were glaring at each other angrily, as if they had a deep hatred for each other. In fact, the moment they walked out of the stronghold, they had already entered their performance mode. Buzz! After a short while, the flowing light barrier flickered and gradually tore apart, forming an arch that could lead to the interior. It's open. Seeing this, the warrior hiding in the distance immediately understood that the two existential planes had successfully declared war. It was too late to regret now. Let's go. Jun Changshao led the martial artists from the fallen star continent, and Kujin Nan and the martial artists from the Lingyuan continent followed closely behind. Both sides entered, and the torn flowing light barrier was mended once again. Hurry up and inform the patriarch. The battle of slaughter is about to begin. The martial artists hiding in the distance all used their own contact methods to inform their companions who were waiting for news. Shwa! Shwa! For a time, a large number of martial artists flew over from different directions and gathered in front of the flowing light boundary, looking at the thousands of martial artists standing inside. Among them were Hong Yao from the Red Sea continent and the big shots from the Lingyun continent. 3 days ago, when the two of them received the news that the fallen star continent had declared war on the Lingyuan continent, they were so happy that they almost jumped up. The money was not wasted. Otherwise, they would have been the ones to be declared war on. The two of them probably never dreamed that even if they did not pay, Jun Go-sheng would not take the initiative to declare war on them for the sake of safety. If they did not know, then so be it. They could just treat it as buying peace of mind with money. TSK, TSK. Hong Yao stood with his hands behind his back. Looking at the two groups of people who were at daggers drawn, he speculated, this will be an earth-shattering battle. An elder said, judging from Jun Changxiao's frenzied killing of tens of thousands of people, the thousands of people from the Xingyuan continent are not enough for him to kill alone. Hong Yao said, at that time, he was only relying on a divine weapon. If he did not use it, I'm afraid it would be difficult for him to do so. Regarding Jun Changxiao's previous strength, all the major planar battlefields believed that it was because of the weapon. Therefore, when opportunities appeared one after another, as long as he took out a pocket-sized knife, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. The battle could be watched in the slaughter field, but no sound could be heard. Therefore, the martial artists watching the battle could only determine how angry the two sides were from their facial expressions and body movements. It was very intense. Jun Changxiao and Ke Jinan were sometimes disdainful and sometimes furious. Judging from their expressions, even if they did not hate each other for stealing their wives, they still hated each other for killing their fathers. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were also trying to make themselves angry and immerse themselves in their acting skills. Of course. This was only the beginning. The real test of acting skills was the battle. Valley Master Ke. Jun Changxiao transmitted his voice, the martial artists outside should be impatient. Let's act according to the plan. Okay. Ke Jinan raised her hand coldly. The martial artists outside immediately realized that the battle was about to begin. Therefore, they all held their breaths and watched attentively, not wanting to miss anything. Let's begin. Jun Changxiao said coldly. The other meaning of this sentence was let's act. Swish. Swish. In an instant, the auras of the upper echelons of the sect of all times led by the Purple King erupted and then soared into the sky, locking onto the upper echelons of the Lingyuan continent. As for Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the other disciples, their eyes were locked on the yellow and black characters. Of course. City Lord Han, Mu Changhong, and the others who were here to act were not idle either. They all unleashed their cultivation. Although this was just an act, when they thought that they were fighting for the falling star continent and all the people in the world, the blood in their bodies boiled uncontrollably. The auras of both sides erupted, and the air in the slaughter field surged to the sky. The battle has begun. Everyone's eyes were burning. Aside from cultivation, being able to see so many people fighting was also a kind of joy in the boring path of martial arts. Swish! Swish! In the slaughter field, thousands of martial artists flew up together and then found each other's targets. In an instant, an intense battle began. Because the outside world could not hear anything, they could only see colorful energy flashing. Straight word speed technique. As the leader of the stronghold, Jun Changxiao also rushed over. The Jade Dragon asks the heavens and his hand flashed, and a dense sword shadow instantly appeared. Boom! 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 Ke Jinan took out her extraordinary golden saber. Although it dissolved the sword chi one by one, she could not help but exclaim inwardly, this kid's understanding of sword Dao is quite high. Boom! Boom! On the other side, the Purple King was fighting with 5 Earth-level powerhouses by himself, completely displaying his valiant side. Although it was just an act, it had to be realistic. Therefore, both sides were abnormally engrossed in the battle, and the spectators could not find any fault with it. They are all going all out. Entering the slaughter field, if you don't go all out, you will die. The battle is so fucking exciting. As the falling star continent and the Lingyuan continent fought crazily, the spectators were completely immersed in the battle. They could not imagine that this was a group of actors. Chapter 10:18. In the slaughterhouse, thousands of martial artists from the falling star continent and the spirit origin continent were fighting fiercely in the air. All kinds of spiritual energy flashed like brilliant fireworks. Although the martial artists from other planes couldn't hear what was going on inside, they could feel from the images that the two sides were fighting desperately. Boom! At this moment, Yi Xingqian went behind a martial artist from the spirit origin continent and punched him with spiritual energy. The latter fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, he swallowed the underworld elixir and died instantly. Clean and efficient, not sloppy at all. The martial artists in the outside world were talking about Yi Xingqian. They even thought that it was impossible for ordinary second-grade martial artists to be so straightforward in a battle. Boom! Boom! Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were also fighting with their opponents. Martial artists were injured in various areas and then pretended to be dead. Because they had rehearsed for 2 months in advance, their performance was impeccable. Of course. Not only did the martial artists from the Falling Star continent die, but so did the martial artists from the Spirit Origin continent. Therefore, after a short fight, hundreds of people from both sides died one after another. It was unrealistic to kill with fists alone. In order to make the effect more realistic, some people struggled until they were stabbed several times before dying. They were also very particular about being stabbed. They would never let their vital parts be hurt. Take Xiao Ziji for example. At this moment, he was covered in wounds and dripping with blood, but they were only superficial wounds. In order to make the effect more realistic, he even deliberately stimulated his meridians with spiritual energy to make the blood spurt out more. The effect of acting like he was really dead was quite shocking. So much so that the martial artists from other planes felt that they were lucky that they didn't go to the slaughterhouse in their own plane back then. Boom! Boom! The battle was still going on and had reached the climax. The scene was pushed to the climax. Xiao Ziji, who pretended to be injured, finally couldn't hold on any longer. His body straightened and fell with a loud bang, completely losing his breath. Junior brother Xiao. Li Qingyang, who was the closest to him, threw his opponent away and roared with his eyes wide open. That look, that expression. It was as if his fellow disciple had really died. Swish Yi Xingqian flew over from afar in a rage, sending the martial artist who killed Xiao Ziji flying with a single punch. Wow! The other party fell several dozen feet and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale as he roared in his heart, "This fellow is too heavy-handed. No, no. I'd better play dead." Gulp. He secretly swallowed the Yellow Springs pill and died on the spot. Xiao Ziji had died on the battlefield, and the disciples of the sect of all times were even more furious and murderous, pushing their performance to an even more realistic level. Even Lu Qianqian was part of the show. Witnessing the fall of her junior brother, a chill flashed through her cold eyes. Wielding her 3-foot-long sword, she charged into the crowd. Layers of ice particles filled the air, instantly slowing down many martial artists. So cold. This woman is an ice martial cultivator. The martial artists from the Lingyuan continent exclaimed. They immediately left the area covered by the ice to avoid being affected by the speed. Her performance is not bad. Jun Changshao, who was fighting with Ku Jinnan, locked his spiritual senses on Lu Qianqian. An undetectable smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although this slaughtering Azura field was an act, it was also a test. If Lu Qianqian could fully integrate into it, she would definitely benefit a lot. The system was speechless. What can she benefit from this? Jun Changshao paused and said solemnly, "The relationship between fellow disciples." The system said, "That works." The martial artists from the Falling Star continent and the Lingyuan continent fought fiercely and then fell one after another. Although they were in a state of suspended animation, they were all injured. Li Fei, Tian Qi, Long Xiang, and the others fell one after another. Jun Changshao watched his disciples fall one by one, and the anger in his eyes grew. Although it was just an act. But one day, what if a similar situation really happened? I won't allow it. No one is allowed to harm my precious darling. Patriarch. At this moment, a cold voice came, "Be careful." Boom. Jun Changshao came back to his senses and turned his head in shock. He saw Lu Qianqian standing in front of him, blocking Kujinan's palm print with her body. Puff! Blood splattered like fireworks. Chan. Jun Changxiao's eyes were about to pop out. Swish! Lu Chanshan's face was extremely pale. The 3-foot-long sword in her hand fell, and then her black hair fluttered and fell, like a winter plum flower gradually withered in the wind and snow. Seeing this, the martial artists in the outside world all sighed. At the critical moment, she blocked the patriarch's attack. Such a disciple could be said to be loyal. Plop! Lu Chanshan fell to the ground, and the cold light sword stabbed into the ground beside her. Her black hair covered her cheeks, making it difficult to see her appearance. There was no breath of life around her. Jun Changxiao's heart seemed to be stabbed by a sharp blade. The pain that reached the deepest part of his soul suddenly spread all over his body. Ah! He roared angrily. Huff! 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 The two kinds of energy of sword and martial arts erupted wildly and poured into the jade dragon asks the heaven sword. Swish! Jun Changxiao rushed over as if he had gone berserk. His eyes flashed with monstrous anger as if he wanted to destroy the world. Swish! Swish! The sword chi that filled the sky spread out. Countless sword lights were displayed in a rage, and instantly intertwined into a terrifying inescapable net. At that moment, Go Sheng's eyes were red, and his face was ferocious. He was like a devil that had been released from hell. Just one look was enough to make people shudder. Patriarch's acting is too good. Li Qingyang, who was still alive, was immediately in admiration. Boom! The Purple King blasted his opponent away. Looking at the furious Jun Changxiao, he muttered in his heart, "Is this acting or has he really gone crazy?" Huff! Huff! The sky was filled with sword shadows that cut through space and pressed down. Kuji-nan was so shocked that she hurriedly retreated and sent a telepathic message, "Jun Patriarch, we are just acting. You must calm down." As soon as she said that, Jun Changxiao's mind suddenly became clear. Yes. This is just acting. I can't be too immersed in it. The system was speechless. When Zui Ji and Li Fei died, I didn't see the host like this. Obviously, you value the female disciples more than the male disciples. Shut up. He, are you angry from embarrassment? Jun Changxiao ignored the system and quietly weakened the sword aura he released. He sent a telepathic message, "Valley Master Ku, it's about time to end the battle." Pang! 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 Kuji-nan broke the weakened sword aura and gave a knowing look. She then sent a telepathic message to her surviving subordinates to speed up their deaths. Ka. At this moment, Jun Changxiao, who was standing in mid-air, activated his battle form. His strength increased again, and he attacked madly with his sword. Seeing this, the martial artists in the outside world suddenly realized that the patriarch of the sect of all times was serious. The outcome of the battle would be decided soon. Boom! Boom! High up in the sky, Jun Changxiao and Kuji-nan exchanged dozens of blows. On the ground, there were more and more corpses lying on the ground. Blood gathered into a river. It was extremely miserable. It's too tragic. Witnessing the scene of corpses everywhere in the Azura arena in just 2 to 4 hours, even the martial artists who had experienced hundreds of battles couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. At this moment, Jun Changxiao, who was high up in the sky, seemed to have turned into an indestructible sharp sword. When the light dissipated, the 3-feet-long sword directly pierced through Kuji-nan's chest. __PS, let's go. Wait for me to return with full health. Chapter 1019. Pht! Kuji-nan, who was suspended in mid-air, spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face turned ferocious. Although Jade Dragon asks the heavens pierced through her chest and did not hurt her vitals, the pain was real. It was not something that could be put on a show. It's over. A powerhouse who was watching the battle from outside said solemnly. In a battle between two planes, if one side's leader was killed, it was basically over because it would affect morale and many other aspects. At this moment, Kuji Nan pretended to use all her strength and suddenly threw a palm strike. Bam! Jun Changshao was sent flying. He covered his chest with one hand. Then, he could not hold back the blood in his throat and spat it out on the spot. Their acting skills were better than the other. Even if one were to watch the battle from a close distance, no one would be able to see any clues, let alone from a distance. Kuji Nan, who had used all her strength, staggered and fell to the ground. Jade Dragon asks the heavens was stabbed in her chest. Blood flowed down along the gap, and the light in her eyes gradually dimmed. Boom! In the end, she fell upside down. Sigh. All the martial artists who witnessed this scene outside shook their heads and sighed. The leader of the Lingyuan continent was killed by Jun Changshao just like that. If she had known this would happen, she would not have accepted the challenge. Valley Master. The 100 Leaves Valley's upper echelons and disciples roared in grief and anger. Swish! Swish! In an instant, dozens of yellow and black powerhouses rushed over crazily. From their angry eyes, it was obvious that they wanted to chop the murderer of their Valley Master into pieces. Acting skills. It was all acting skills. The 200,000 hexagram stones were not spent in vain. Jun Changshao raised his hand in relief. Then, he snapped his fingers and said, Slayer Overlord shakes heaven and earth with one finger. Hum. Hum. Energy ripples instantly spread out. The dozens of martial artists who came in contact with it froze in midair. Their faces were filled with horror. Then, they collectively spat out blood and fell crazily like kites with their strings cut. When they touched the ground, all of them lost their lives. When the martial artists outside saw this scene, they all gasped. With a snap of his fingers, dozens of yellow and black powerhouses were instantly killed. Such terrifying strength, only heaven powerhouses could do it, right? No. As long as one could release spiritual energy, any martial artist could do it. But the premise was that there must be a group of actors with excellent acting skills. The dozens of dead martial artists from the Spirit Origin continent who were lying on the ground cooperated seamlessly. After Jun Changshao snapped his fingers, they pretended to freeze, vomited blood, and fell to the ground, quietly swallowing the underworld elixir. Although the steps were simple, it was difficult to implement. They had practiced countless times in the stronghold to pretend that they had been killed by some kind of terrifying force. That was how they had achieved such a flawless performance. As the saying goes, 1 minute on stage, 10 years of hard work off stage. He had to be nominated for the Best Extra of the Year in the Lingyuan continent. Kill! Kill! The hundreds of survivors from the Falling Star continent witnessed the death of their enemy's leader, and their fighting spirit soared. Then, they launched a frenzied barrage of attacks. The morale of the people of the Lingyuan continent plummeted, and they were soon overwhelmed. After killing dozens of martial artists, Jun Changshao stood in the air with the blood-stained Jade Dragon asks the heaven's sword in his hand. He looked up at the sky. His black hair was blown away by the wind, revealing a stern face. His cold eyes seemed to pierce through the endless void. The upper realm. Are you satisfied? Although he was acting, although there were no casualties. Being in the killing Shiraba made him feel like a clown, a chess piece at the mercy of others. He was very upset. Very upset. Damn it. Jun Changshao clenched his fists and roared angrily, when I ascend to the upper realm, I will torture you until you cry for your parents. The corners of the Purple King and Yixingchen's mouths twitched slightly. To them, the upper realm was definitely a world full of awesome people. The patriarch actually wanted to torture them until they cried for their parents. How heroic and courting death was that? However, it seemed a little exciting. The endless starry sky. Lord. The hunchbacked old man said, this kid is a little arrogant. A graceful woman stood proudly in front of him. She was surrounded by clouds and mist, and one could only see her endless majesty and pride. Her appearance could not be seen clearly. The martial artists of the mortal world have never lacked people with lofty ambitions. Those who can really do it can be counted on one hand. She looked at Yi Xingqian in the Shiraba and continued, therefore, in the face of absolute power, even if you shout until your throat is hoarse, you are still just an ant at the mercy of the strong. The hunchbacked old man said, it's rare to see such an extraordinary person like the Lord in the mortal world. The victory of the falling star continent has been decided. Inform the realm hall of the situation, the woman said lightly. Yes. The hunchbacked old man quietly disappeared into the void. The woman continued to look down at the Shiraba and thought to herself, Jun Changshao is not a simple person. No wonder Night Emperor lowered himself to be his disciple and became a disciple without dignity. When she said the last word, she had disappeared into thin air, leaving only bursts of fragrance in the air. Although the falling star continent and the Lingyuan continent were acting, both sides fought for a few hours and only ended when dusk came. In this battle, the Lingyuan continent, including Kujinnan, had lost a total of 2,000 people. The falling star continent had also suffered heavy casualties. City Lord Han had died in battle. Mu Changhong had died in battle. Taixien Shengzong, Bright Light Holy Sect, and other higher-ups had all died in battle. Plop! The purple craggy monster king sat on the ground. His body was covered in wounds and he was completely exhausted. He gasped for breath. Yi Xingqian was also alive. With this guy's arrogant personality, he would not allow himself to die in battle. His whole body was covered in blood. His hands were trembling violently, and his face was extremely pale. Although he was alive, he had paid a heavy price. Although it was an act, the battle was real. After a few hours, he would definitely collapse. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were smarter. They found an opportunity to fake their deaths and did not need to do anything at all. Patriarch Old Ding was also lucky to survive. He stood at a low altitude with his hands hanging down. He squeezed out a smile with difficulty, but because of the blood covering his face, he looked quite gloomy and terrifying. Under the setting sun, countless corpses were scattered. It was like purgatory on earth. This was just an act, but the battle had reached such a level. If the two sides really had a grudge and fought desperately, perhaps Jun Changshao would unseal the unstoppable blade and turn the battle into a grass-cutting game. Let's go. Let's leave quickly. The falling star continent had won this battle. Before they were teleported out, the martial artists of this plane had all disappeared. They were afraid that Jun Changshao would come out and take the opportunity to blackmail them again. Besides, the battle was over. There was no point in staying here. However, what puzzled Hong Yao and the others was that Jun Changshao had taken out his weapon and killed tens of thousands of people. Why didn't he use it today? Why did the falling star continent's martial artists and disciples suffer heavy casualties? There was only one possibility. That guy's weapon was a super trump card. After using it once, there was a time limit and it could not be used again. Thinking of this, many people were not afraid of Jun Changshao anymore. Chapter 10:20. As soon as the martial artists left, Jun Changshao and the others who survived were teleported out of the Azura field with thousands of corpses. Patriarch Li Tian and the others who were waiting outside gathered around. When they saw the corpses of Elder Jiang, Elder Gu, and their senior brothers and sisters, they burst into tears. Jun Changshao clutched his chest and said in pain, "Bring these heroes who sacrificed for the falling star continent back to the stronghold and give them a proper burial." Yes. Li Tian, Sima Zhongda, and the others all took action. Swoosh! Jun Changshao picked up Lu Qianqian and looked at her cold face. He thought to himself, don't do such a stupid thing in reality. The martial artists of the Lingyuan continent also rushed over. They held back their grief and collected the corpses of their valley master and their companions. Before they left, they didn't forget to give the martial artists of the falling star continent an angry look. Even if the battle was over, even if there were no other martial artists around, their performance still went on because it would only be over when they returned to their strongholds. Ding! Epic level quest completed. Beginning calculation. After hearing the system notification, Jun Changshao, who was carrying Lu Qianqian back to the stronghold, thought to himself with relief, the performance of thousands of people was not in vain. Although the martial artists of the Lingyuan continent faked their deaths, they had completed the mission in the Azura field, so they met the mission criteria. Epic Quest 10 began to be calculated. However, what made Jun Changshao mutter was, how can I exceed the quota? The system said, the fewer casualties, the higher the quota. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. In this battle, although the martial artists of the Lingyuan continent were all wiped out, only a dozen people on his side were left. If he calculated according to the number of casualties, he definitely couldn't exceed the quota. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed and said, as long as there are no casualties, it doesn't matter if I exceed the quota or not. He was very satisfied. Before long, he flew back to the stronghold of the falling star continent with Lu Qianqian in his arms. The disciples who faked their deaths and the other martial artists were carried back one after another. The system still hadn't finished the calculation and didn't give the relevant experience. Jun Changshao said worriedly, is there a malfunction? I won't. The system said, maybe it's because I have to settle 2 quests, so it will take some time. Oh. Jun Changshao placed Lu Qianqian on a chair and ordered, Heaven, Zhongde, wake them up. Yes. Hua. Hua. Li Tiantian and Sima Zhongde splashed cold water on Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others. Then, they saw them shiver and wake up from playing dead. Aya. Li Fei stood up and howled, my butt. When this guy was playing dead, he was punched in the butt by an expert from the spirit origin continent. When he came back to life, he could still feel the pain. Who? Who? Li Qingyang sat up and took deep breaths. Before his death, he had unleashed a frenzied burst of energy and consumed it in a frenzy. Now that he had come back to life, he was naturally exhausted. Xiao Ziji was not in a good state either. After all, his entire body was covered in wounds. In short, although they were acting in the Slaughter Azura field this time, they were fighting for real. Therefore, after waking up, they were still in the same state as before their deaths. There were no casualties. This was already the best result. It didn't matter if they were injured. Moreover, this was also a rare real battle that would help in understanding martial arts. Li Tiantian was about to splash the water on the great senior sister who was lying on the chair, but was stopped by Jun Changshao, and said, I'll do it. Hua! A basin of cold water was poured over. Jun Changshao thought, it feels pretty good. System, didn't all women use pain to love? This guy could even feel a sense of accomplishment from splashing water. He deserved to be single for the rest of his life. Lu Qianqian woke up. After a short moment of confusion, she got up with difficulty and returned to her residence. When she went to help Jun Changshao block the palm print, although Kuji Nan discovered it in time, she only withdrew part of her power. Therefore, the damage caused to her was quite serious. Jun Changshao shouted, if your injuries are serious, take a healing pill. Lu Qianqian stopped. Cold water flowed down her wet black hair from her cheeks, and said, I'm fine. This time it was an act. I allow you to take the risk to block the palm print. Next time, don't do such a stupid thing. Jun Changshao said solemnly. Lu Qianqian said, didn't the patriarch say that there are many kinds of death? There are those who sacrifice themselves for others, those who do not care about one's safety, and those who do it for the country and the people. This. Jun Changshao was speechless. Lu Qianqian continued, this way of death is strictly following the patriarch's wishes. After that, she returned to her residence. All right. Jun Changshao shrugged and smiled. This woman is a little enlightened. Jun Patriarch. City Lord Han, who had just woken up, walked over and asked, "Is this the end of the slaughterhouse field?" "It's done." Jun Changshao turned around and said, "Everyone's acting was very successful." City Lord Han and the others were immediately overjoyed. They knew that as long as they acted according to Jun Changshao's instructions, the Falling Star Continent's mission in the planar battlefield would be complete. Unless someone wanted to enter, there would be no need to force martial artists to die. Jun Patriarch. City Lord Han cupped his fists and said, "Everything you and your sect have done for the Falling Star Continent will go down in history forever." Mu Changhong and the other experts also cupped their fists, their eyes filled with deep respect. Without Jun Changshao and the disciples of the Eternal Sect, there would be no stronghold at the level of a large city. There would be no killing field to defeat the Spirit Origin continent, and there would be no need for the younger generation to come and die. This was a great favor. Even those with a little bit of conscience had to acknowledge it and remember it in their hearts. Jun Changshao said solemnly, "I am Jun Changshao, and the Sect of All Times is also a member of the Falling Star Continent. It is only natural that my home country cannot do its best, so please do not deify Jun and the Sect." It was undeniable. This time, the Falling Star Continent's martial artists entered the planar battlefield and earned a lot of natural spirit stones. However, this was just an excuse to help his home. He too. The system can't take it anymore. Everyone. Jun Changshao pointed at the portal that connected to the Falling Star Continent in the distance and said, "After going through the slaughterhouse, the Falling Star Continent can be considered to have completed the mission given to us by the upper realm. Now, you can all go back." Jun Patriarch. City Lord Han cupped his fists and said, "I will take my leave first. Goodbye. Goodbye." The various martial artists all stood up and walked towards the Bronze Gate. They had been in the planar battlefield for half a year, and their friends and family still did not know that they were alive, so they were anxious to return. Jun Patriarch. Mu Changhong was the last to leave. Before entering the Bronze Gate, he cupped his fists and said, "Jun Patriarch, I will return first." Jun Changshao nodded. Swoosh! Mu Changhong stepped in, thinking, should I go back to the City Lord's mansion or the Sect of All Times cafeteria? Forget it. After being away from home for so long, they should be used to it. It doesn't matter if I go a little later. I might as well eat a few bowls of fried rice first. Chapter 1021. The bustling main peak became deserted after City Lord Han and the others left. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in front of the hall, used his spiritual sense to cover the large city-level stronghold that he had worked so hard to build. Then, he stretched and said, "It's finally over." The mission of the Falling Star Continent being chosen by the Upper Realm was completed. The 2 epic-level missions were also completed. To Jun Changshao, the planar battlefield was nothing more than a training ground for his disciples. It's time to focus all my attention on the development of the sect. Right. There's also the Eastern Sea Fishery. Li Luoqiu confirmed that the letter for help was indeed written by Master Fan. A huge plan. Was it related to the survival of the Falling Star Continent? Jun Changshao's imagination ran wild. He said, "Is it related to the Soul Race?" At present, this was the only possibility that could be related to the survival of the continent. "I have the ancient warship. It should be easy to get there," Jun Changshao said. "When I'm done here, I'll go take a look." Since he had inherited the various constitutions left behind by the Formation Emperor and the other elders, he should do something for the Falling Star Continent. Whoosh whoosh. The wind howled, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. A sailboat drifted in the sea like a lonely leaf, as if it would be swallowed by the waves at any time. The old man at the helm said calmly, "This is the gale area. I've been here hundreds of times. You don't need to worry." Yuan Gongzi and Elder Lin sat in the bumpy cabin. Although the two of them pretended to be calm, They were secretly praying that they could reach the Eastern Sea fishery safely. As long as we can get away from Jun Changshao, so what if we die? Yuan Gongzi thought to himself. Ding! The host declared war on the Lingyuan continent at the specified time and led everyone to the final victory. The conditions are met. The epic level mission is completed. Completion rate, 100%. The host receives 20,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 900,007,0000. Ding! Sect contribution points overflow. Jun Changshao, who had just walked into the hall, heard the notification and shook his head. As expected, the casualties were too heavy. Only 100% completion. He rubbed his hands together and sat on the chair. It was the reward for completing 2 epic-ranked quests. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing Epic Mission 9. The reward is Saint Grade Aptitude Modification Liquid X5, Saint Grade Sword Way Aptitude Modification Liquid X1, Supreme Grade Dragon Tooth Blade Formula X1, Supreme Grade Dragon Tooth Bow Formula X1, Supreme Grade Dragon Tooth Spear Formula X1, and New Seal Talisman X1. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing Epic Mission 10. The host has been rewarded with Saint Grade Aptitude Modification Liquid X2, Saint Grade Sword Way Aptitude Modification Liquid X1, 7 Profound Sunglow Fragment Scroll X1. Jun Changshao was overjoyed. The reward for completing 2 epic level quests was 7 bottles of Saint Grade Aptitude Modification Elixir and 2 bottles of Sword Way Aptitude Modification Elixir. The 3 weapon formulas that were named after the Dragon Tooth had reached the peak grade, so they were definitely stronger than the high-grade Truyang set. There was also the 7 Profound Sunglow Fragment Scroll 3. Currently, the sect already had 2 books. If they sold the 3rd book and cultivated it to a higher level, its power would definitely be even stronger. Not to mention the opening seal talisman. As the strongest trump card at the moment, having one more was equivalent to having one more opportunity to cut down the grass. Nice! Perfect! Jun Changshao smiled brightly. At this moment the psionic energy in the spirit core suddenly shrank rapidly, and then transformed into a purer version. Jun Changshao sat down cross-legged, and said, I'm about to break through the sword and martial saints. Every time he completed an epic mission, he would break through to a higher level, so he was already used to it. Although he was a little excited, he didn't jump up. Hoo-hoo! Hoo-hoo! Inside the spirit core, the psionic energy that represented martial arts began to evolve. First, it expanded, and then quickly shrank, turning into a more substantial and pure energy. A moment later, the energy conversion was complete. Jun Changshao felt that his strength. The increase didn't seem to be too obvious, so he asked in surprise, what's going on? Ding! It has been detected that the host's sword way cultivation has not met the requirements, and the realm will not be able to increase. Jun Changshao did not panic. He took out the Saint Grade Sword Way Aptitude liquid from the space ring, and then raised his head to drink it. The taste was still similar to Tsingdao's draft beer. Hoo-hoo! After the level of the sword way increased, the sword way attribute in the spirit core began to transform. After reaching the peak, the 2 auras of the sword way and martial way instantly erupted, turning into ripples that rippled outwards. Yi Xingchen, who had just returned to his residence, felt the aura emerging from the main peak and exclaimed, Is he going to break through again? Patriarch is going to break through. Old Ding and the others also sensed the momentum of the advancement, and their eyes were filled with surprise and joy. Lu Qianxian stood outside the courtyard, looking at the ripples spreading out from the main hall. She thought to herself, did he originally have the cultivation of Wusheng? In the past few years, the frequency of Jun Changxiao's breakthroughs had been too fast, so fast that she had always wondered if he had deliberately suppressed his realm and then released it at a fixed time, creating the illusion that he had broken through again. Hoo-hoo! The 2 types of energy, sword and martial way, lasted for an hour in the stronghold before they began to converge. Ding! Congratulations to the host for breaking through to Wusheng. Ding! Congratulations to the host for breaking through to Sword Saint. When everything calmed down, the camera turned to the main hall, only to find that Jun Changshao had disappeared into thin air. Sigh. Suddenly, a sigh came from the rooftop. Jun Changshao squatted on the roof ridge, his hands resting on his thighs, his fingers interlocked, as if he was an expert who had experienced countless hardships. He looked at the camera and said gloomily, "Please call me Sword and Martial Way Saints, thank you." The system, if he was already so cocky when he was only Saint level, wouldn't he be sky high if he broke through to Overlord level? Buzz, the space rippled, and Jun Changshao disappeared again. When the camera turned, it found that this guy had already appeared outside the stronghold, his eyes burning with passion. "After breaking through, my understanding of the power of space has become stronger. Teleporting is as easy as blowing off dust." Demi-Saints only had a preliminary understanding of space, but Wu Sheng's level was truly proficient in the use of space, and with a single thought, he could travel hundreds of miles or even more. Whoosh! Whoosh! Jun Changshao had a playful heart, and he frequently traveled inside and outside the stronghold. At first, it was a few dozen miles, but it slowly extended to hundreds of miles, until finally, he collapsed on the stairs of the main hall. Huff, huff. Huff, huff, huff. Go Sheng lay on the stairs, breathing heavily, too tired. Nonsense. The system said, of course it's tiring to play like this. After all, the power of space was limited, and it could not withstand the crazy consumption. How strong am I now? Jun Changshao began to think. The system estimated, with the host's current strength of rank 1 Wu Sheng, it should be easy to defeat rank 2 and rank 2, right? Only 2 or 3 ranks higher. Jun Changshao was not satisfied. The system said, at the level of martial disciple and martial master, the difference between ranks may only be a few hundred to 1,000 pounds, but at Wu Sheng's level, the difference of 1 rank is 1,000 miles. Of course. I'm just estimating, the real strength has to be confirmed through actual combat. It did not dare to say too much. In case the host really could defeat rank 4 or 5 Wu Sheng, wouldn't it be slapping its own face? Chapter 1022. After breaking through to the Sword and Martial Saints, Jun Changshao's temperament had been completely sublimated. He also looked more handsome and imposing. Patriarch. As soon as he walked out of the hall, Li Fei smiled and said, "You're even more handsome than before." Jun Changshao put his hand on his disciple's shoulder and said with a smile, "Your eyes are getting sharper and sharper. I like it very much." System, Patriarch. Li Qingyang walked over and said, "Are we still going to stay here?" "No need." Jun Changshao said, "Pack up and get ready to leave." All the missions were completed. He planned to let Jiangye, Elder Gu, and the others take turns to guard this place. Then, when his disciple broke through to the peak of Martial King, he would use the Surge Talisman to train. And he had also discussed it with Kujin Nan. Every once in a while, they would have a friendly spar to improve their relationship. Ta! Jun Changshao stopped at the martial arts practice field and mobilized the power of space. Whoosh! He appeared out of thin air dozens of miles away from the stronghold and said, "Find a strong expert and have a good fight." Since he had become the Sword and Martial Saints, he had to find a strong opponent to measure his strength. At the Lingyuan continent stronghold, Kujin Nan, who had woken up from a dead state, had a bandage wrapped around his chest. He sat in the hall and discussed something with a few elders. To be honest, using the death-like pill to bluff his way through was a little unexpected. Sigh. An elder said bitterly, "A few hundred years ago, if our Lingyuan continent had such a pill and the cooperation of the plain, how could we have won at the cost of almost all of our people in the slaughter-Izura field?" As a veteran plain, they had been forced to declare war on other plains back then. Although they won, they also suffered heavy casualties. In the end, the top forces of the continent were weakened by a lot. Only today did they barely recover. Valley Master. Another elder said worriedly, "In the eyes of the martial artists of the other plains, we have already fallen. If we are discovered to be alive, how can we explain it? This, Jin Nan fell silent. For the sake of 200,000 natural spirit stones, he had chosen to take a gamble. Although he had won the gamble, he had not considered the consequences at all. In fact, he was not worried about being discovered by the martial artists of this plane. He was only afraid that the upper realm would find out and punish him. Valley Master. A subordinate hurriedly came to report, "We've just received news that June Patriarch fought with a few Earth-ranked experts and defeated them one by one in just a few moves." The elders' mouths twitched. It hadn't even been a day since June Changshao came out from the Azura battlefield. Wasn't he afraid that he would give himself away? Jin Nan, on the other hand, did not consider this matter. Instead, she asked, "June Patriarch used his divine weapon?" Like the other warriors, he believed that the reason June Changshao could be so strong was all because of the support of the divine weapon. If he didn't have it, his strength would be between the Xian and the earth level. Indeed. Before breaking through the dual saints, Go Xing's true strength was at this level. If he wanted to defeat an earth-ranked expert, he could only rely on his equipment to suppress them. The subordinate said, "According to eyewitnesses, June Patriarch fought with an earth-ranked expert barehanded. He paused and said, "One punch sent his opponent more than 20 miles away." What? Jin Nan and the elders immediately widened their eyes. At the earth-ranked level, they could attack low-level martial artists. However, June Changshao had used his fist to send a powerhouse of the same level as himself flying so far away. How terrifying was his strength! Boom! A shocking explosion suddenly came from a certain area of the battlefield. A figure flew from one end to the other like a cannonball. The distance between them was already more than 10 miles. Crack crack crack. At the source of the explosion, the space could not bear it and directly collapsed, spreading endlessly in all directions. Also, because it was at a low altitude, the ground was affected. It was as if an invisible mountain was pressing down on it. The area of several hundred feet suddenly caved in. If a low-level martial artist saw this scene, their legs would definitely go soft. Puff! The middle-aged man who had been sent flying more than 10 miles clutched his chest and spat out blood. His eyes were filled with shock. June Changshao stood at a low altitude. His whole body was shrouded in dense air, giving people a feeling that he was unstoppable. Too weak. He shook his head. The system remained silent and secretly rejoiced. It was lucky that it did not make a judgment at that time. Otherwise, it would have been severely slapped in the face. Why did it say that? Because the middle-aged man who had been sent flying more than 10 miles was already comparable to the 5th-ranked Wusheng of the Falling Star continent. A powerhouse of this level was sent flying so far by June Changshao's punch, and even caused him to spit out blood. It was clear how terrifying the power was. If it was the 2nd or 3rd-ranked Wusheng that the system had mentioned earlier, one punch would probably be able to fight from the Tang of the East to the Western Paradise. Too scary. He just came out of the Azura arena and did not even rest. He came to bully an Earth-ranked powerhouse. Is he not tired? There were many martial artists around. At this moment, their eyes were completely wide open. In particular, they looked at June Changshao as if they were looking at a monster. June Patriarch. The middle-aged man suppressed his injuries. His face was slightly pale as he said, "Are you satisfied?" "Yes." June Changshao said, "You can leave now. Goodbye." The middle-aged man cupped his hands and flew away without looking back until he disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Then, he spat out another mouthful of blood and said to himself, "This kid is too much." He was originally looking for an opportunity when he was suddenly blocked by June Changshao and was not allowed to leave unless he took a punch head-on. This Earth-ranked powerhouse was not the first unlucky one, because there were a few more above him. The most miserable one was sent flying more than 20 miles with a punch. Who else is willing to fight June? June Changshao turned around and swept his gaze across the shocked martial artists in the distance. Everyone met his gaze and their faces were immediately filled with shock. Then, they hurriedly said, "June Patriarch is too strong. We are no match for him. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Go back and tell the others that I will set up an arena outside the stronghold of the falling star continent the day after tomorrow. I welcome all the Earth-ranked powerhouses to fight me. If they can defeat me, they will receive 100,000 six-pointed star stones." It was too difficult to find an opponent on the battlefield. He could only tempt them with spirit stones, 100,000 six-pointed star stones. The martial artists widened their eyes. This kind of martial arts resource came from the Nine Heavens continent. If they could obtain it, it would definitely increase their cultivation level significantly. Of course. They also believed that Jun Changshao was absolutely confident in his strength. Otherwise, only a fool would dare to waste six-pointed star stones like this. Goodbye. Goodbye. Everyone did not dare to stay any longer and left as quickly as possible. The news of Jun Changshao setting up an arena outside the stronghold spread quickly on the battlefield. The martial artists who were not strong enough only joined in the discussion. The Earth-ranked powerhouses were tempted when they heard about it. With their strength, they could only pray that they would be lucky enough to encounter an opportunity on the battlefield and obtain martial arts resources. If they could defeat Jun Changshao, they would receive 100,000 six-pointed star stones. It was undoubtedly very tempting. It's decided. An Earth-ranked powerhouse thought for a while and said, "The day after tomorrow, we will go to the stronghold of the falling star continent. For the 100,000 six-pointed star stones, we have to give it a try no matter what. I haven't felt so excited in a long time. I feel like I have returned to the days when I was young." Since Jun Changshao is so arrogant as to set up an arena to challenge the Earth-ranked powerhouses, I naturally cannot disappoint him. More and more Earth-ranked powerhouses decided to go to the stronghold of the falling star continent. They wanted the six-pointed star stones, and they also wanted to see how strong that guy was. The Lingyuan continent also found out about this. Kuji Nan said in admiration, "Jun Patriarch is really valiant." The Nine Heavens continent also found out. Mo Shangsheng's expression was a little interesting. After all, the 100,000 six-pointed star stones mentioned were all his own. Chapter 1023. Outside the Starfall continent stronghold, Paige was mobilizing the Earth element to construct an arena model. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others had already prepared a large amount of construction materials in advance. They originally thought that they were going to return to the Sect of all times, but they didn't expect the Patriarch to set up an arena to challenge an Earth-level fighter. This was a little exciting. Li Fei said, "The Patriarch has just broken through. Isn't it a little too risky to challenge an Earth-level fighter?" He was mainly worried that Jun Changshao had just returned from the Azura battlefield and hadn't had a good rest. If he were to set up an arena and fight with various fighters the day after tomorrow, it would be difficult for him to be in peak condition. The Patriarch has never done anything that he isn't confident in. Since he dares to openly challenge the fighters of various dimensions, he definitely has the ability to defeat them, Sevenfield said firmly. That's true. Li Fei said excitedly, "I'm looking forward to it." To them, a battle between high-level powerhouses was an opportunity that they could only come across by chance. They would more or less be able to comprehend something from it. It was no wonder. Even with the flowing light barrier and no sound could be heard, every time there was a battle in the Azura battlefield, it would always attract many onlookers. Watching the show was only secondary. The real reason was that they hoped to gain inspiration from the intense battle and better understand martial arts. Whoosh whoosh. Paige's earth element erupted from his body. Then, layer after layer of condensed earth was laid on the platform, reinforcing it multiple times. After doing so much construction in the stronghold, building an arena was a piece of cake. While everyone was busy, Jun Changshao sat in the main hall of the main peak and skillfully opened the purchased items. He found that 7 Profound Sunglow Fragment 3 was priced at 20,000 contribution points. He broke down and said, "So expensive? Volume 1, 1,000. Volume 2, 5,000. Volume 3 was actually 20,000. Based on this, wouldn't Volume 7 exceed a few 100,000? Although it was expensive, Jun Changshao still bought it, because the epic level mission reward was exactly 20,000 contribution points. Last time, Gosheng used the excess contribution points to buy the infrastructure. Anyone who doubts my negligence is indirectly praising my handsomeness. Ding! Host has spent 20,000 contribution points. 7 Profound Sunglow Fragment 3x1 has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 700,0070000. Jun Gosheng, who had obsessive-compulsive disorder, suddenly felt much better when he saw that his contribution points were once again equal to the upper limit. Boom! Boom! The sound of an earth-shattering explosion came from somewhere in the void. The two energies were like ancient beasts clashing madly, destroying the pitiful spatial barrier in a frenzy. Far away from the battlefield, there was a stone platform suspended in the air. On top of it was a slightly yellowed ancient book with the words 7 Profound Sunglow Fragment Volume 3 written on its cover. Swish! Suddenly, the space trembled slightly. It was as if an invisible hand had grabbed the secret manual, and then it disappeared into thin air. Boom boom boom. The two energies were still madly colliding. Judging from their terrifying auras, it seemed that they would not stop until they fought to the death. However, after a while, the violent power suddenly dissipated. A middle-aged man in white and a middle-aged man in black stood in front of the stone platform and shouted angrily at the same time, "Where is my secret manual? White Rakshasa, you're cheating. Black Rakshasa, you're cheating. Bullshit!" The two of them said in unison. The martial artists watching from afar muttered inwardly, the secret manual was alternately enveloped by the black and white energies of the two. It's impossible for one to take it away. How did it suddenly disappear? The black and white Rakshasas are very suspicious, and were watching from afar. Could it be that? An expert was speaking when the two arguing middle-aged men suddenly turned their heads. One of them was black and the other was white. Their eyes were gloomy as they asked, "Did you steal it?" "No. No. Don't misunderstand. They're coming. Retreat." In the stronghold of the falling star continent, Jun Changshao held the warm 7 Profound Sunglow Fragment Volume 3. Although he felt that it was a little strange, he could not understand it. He could only throw it into his spatial ring again and spend contribution points to copy. 100,000 copies. Because the sect had more and more members, copying martial arts techniques and the like was definitely going for 100,000 copies. He would save the rest and give them to the subsequent disciples. Jun Changshao opened the forging pavilion again, and the 3 Dragon Tooth series weapons were automatically matched. It could be seen from the names. One was a saber, one was a bow, and one was a spear. These 3 weapons are more suitable for army battles. If they are mass-produced, they can be equipped with the war cavalry hull. Jun Changshao muttered. Not considering the core disciples. With the divine weapons in the divine weapon pavilion, Li Qingyang and the others did not need other weapons to increase their strength. Furthermore, some people might not use weapons like sabers, bows, and spears. For example, Xiao Ziji and the Purple King. Therefore, a pot and a pair of pink gloves were a perfect match for them. There are ready-made ores that can be used to refine a few. Let's see the effect first. Jun Changshao selected the 3 weapons and began to refine them. When he needed some herbs, the level of the seeds might not be high, but in terms of ores, there was no doubt. After all, the Demon Emperor's Gate was not robbed for nothing, and the Spirit Crossing Valley was not destroyed for nothing. The next day, after Li Qingyang and Page worked overtime, a rather imposing stage was set up outside the stronghold. Jun Changshao used all sorts of stabilizing formations to prevent it from collapsing. Ding! After he was done, a notification came from the forging pavilion. It took an entire night to refine one. The speed is a bit slow. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out the dragon tooth blade that he had refined. The scale of this blade was about the same as the cloud-piercing blade, but regardless of whether it was its aura or workmanship, it was obviously much stronger than the latter. Shwa shwa. Gou Sheng held it in his hand, casually slashed it a few times, and said with satisfaction, "This blade is not bad." The system said, "From the looks of it, it should be at the high level of the Xian word, weaker than the Earth word opportunity that the host dug out. If we mass-produce it and equip it with the War Cavalry Hall, their fighting strength will definitely soar." Jun Changshao said. Ding! At this moment, a notification came from the forging pavilion again. Jun Changshao took out the dragon tooth bow that he had just refined and said, "Only have a bow and no arrows. How am I supposed to use it? Do I have to prepare it myself?" Shwa! While speaking, his right hand placed on the string made of an unknown material and gently pulled, but found that it did not move at all. So he said in astonishment, "It's so heavy." Shwa Jun Changshao deliberately increased the strength before pulling the string. After pulling it to the limit, at the point where the bow and the string were connected, a stream of light suddenly flashed, and an arrow that seemed to be condensed by spiritual energy condensed out of thin air. The system said, "As long as this bow is pulled, it will automatically condense an arrow from the user's spirit core." I see. Jun Changshao held the bow and walked out of the hall. Then, he aimed at a huge rock on a mountain peak in the distance and immediately released his hand. With a whoosh sound, the arrow that was condensed by spiritual energy flew out. Boom! An explosion was heard immediately. The mountain peak that was locked on was blown to pieces on the spot. "That's a bit strong," Jun Changshao said in surprise. The rocks of the interdimensional battlefield were much harder than those of the Starfall continent. Although the AWM sniper rifle could also shatter them from a distance, the price was that the bullets had to be condensed by high-grade spirit stones or crystal cores. On the other hand, the dragon tooth bow only relied on a small amount of spiritual energy to condense an arrow to achieve this. Its practicality was definitely better. Ding! The dragon tooth spear was refined. This weapon was similar in size to a normal spear, but its level was far higher than the Overlord spear. It was very suitable for charging and breaking through enemy lines. Jun Changshao said with a burning gaze, 3 weapons. It can be used for both close combat and long-range attacks. It's absolutely invincible. Chapter 1024. Boom! On top of War Knight Peak, Zhongyi slashed down with his dragon tooth blade. The ground immediately cracked, revealing a deep and long trench. Patriarch! He excitedly put away the blade and said, "This weapon is even better than the Cloud Piercer." One was a top-grade weapon, while the other was a high-grade one. From now on. Gou Sheng smiled and said, "This dragon tooth blade is yours. You must lead the Wolf Cavalry Regiment well." "Yes." Zhongyi bowed. The War Cavalry Regiment was divided into many regiments. The most elite of them all was the Wolf Cavalry Regiment. After all, they were formed early and trained early. As the leader of the Wolf Cavalry Regiment, Zhongyi was undoubtedly very qualified. He had been the leader of the Wolf Cavalry Regiment many times before. Of course, he was also the temporary leader of the Tiger Cavalry Regiment and the Lion Cavalry Regiment. He was one of Shui Rengui and Tao Yuan's most trusted generals. Jun Changshao was not sure if he would have a use for the War Cavalry Regiment in the future. However, since it had been established, it would definitely plan ahead, allowing its strength and equipment to keep up with the times so that it could face any unexpected situation. Thus, after Zhongyi broke through Wu Huang with the Surge Talisman, he never went to the planar battlefield again. He was mainly in charge of the daily training of the Wolf Cavalry Regiment members. After giving the blade, Jun Changshao went to find Shui Rengui and Tao Yuan. He took out the dragon tooth bow and dragon tooth spear for them to test. Patriarch! Hall Master Shui said excitedly, "If our War Cavalry Regiment can be equipped with these bows and spears, our combat power will definitely skyrocket." Jun Changshao also wanted to equip his disciples with them, but there were limited ores and other resources. No, no. After returning to the main peak of the battlefield, Jun Changshao began to think. I have to find a way to get some high-grade ores. The three weapons were not only suitable for the war cavalry regiment, but also for the other inner and outer disciples. It would be best if everyone had one. The system said, Host, you don't even have the True Yang set. If you want to give each of your 70,000 disciples a top-grade weapon, it will be difficult. That's why I'm thinking of a way. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples and said, I don't know if there are any ores that I need in the other realms. When someone comes to challenge me tomorrow and I defeat him, I can ask for them. The system, setting up an arena, the loser would have to pay 200,000 hexagram stones, and the winner would have to take out all sorts of ores. This was very Goshing's style. The Earth-ranked powerhouse who didn't know the truth clearly hadn't thought about what would happen if he lost. At this moment, he was already sharpening his blade, waiting for tomorrow to come. The next day. Whoosh! 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 Streaks of light either flew at high speed or shuttled through space at high speed. Heavens, there are so many Earth-level experts. It seems that they are all going to the Starfall continent to challenge Jun Changshao and earn 200,000 hexagram stones. These spirit stones are several times more valuable than those in our continent. 200,000 of them are equivalent to over 1 million. Even if you use your battle achievement points, you might not necessarily be able to exchange for them. Earth-ranked experts will definitely be tempted. Shall we go and take a look? Let's not. With Jun Changshao's character, he will definitely extort money from us again. The Starfall continent suffered heavy casualties in the battle with the Spirit Origin continent at the slaughtering Azura field. That guy might not dare to use force. Moreover, this time he set up an arena in public and challenged Earth-ranked powerhouses from all over the continent. He wouldn't do something so shameless, right? That makes sense. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go and take a look. The martial artists from all over the continent wanted to see a good show, especially when it was an Earth-ranked battle. Therefore, after comforting themselves, they ignored the risk and followed. Dozens of miles away from the Starfall continent's stronghold, many martial artists rushed over from all over the continent. From afar, they saw a hill in front of them. When they got closer, they realized that it was a battle arena. This battle arena is even bigger than our sect's martial arts field. There is the aura of a formation around it. It must have been reinforced in all aspects. It seems that Jun Changshao is really going to fight Earth-ranked powerhouses. While the crowd was discussing, they noticed that there was a surrounding structure outside the battle arena. There were rows of seats on it, so they were surprised. They have prepared spectator seats? Everyone. At this moment, Jun Changshao, who was standing on the main peak, held a loudspeaker and said, Welcome to the battle. Jun is challenging Earth-ranked powerhouses from all over the continent. The Sect of all times has not only prepared spectator seats, but also fruits and wine for everyone to enjoy at any time. The crowd's mouth twitched slightly. However, they also relaxed. Since this guy had made such thorough arrangements, he should not have any bad intentions. Of course. Jun Changshao continued, If you want to watch the battle, you have to pay a fixed amount of ores. Otherwise, please leave quickly. What? The martial artists from all over the continent widened their eyes. Goshing really did not have any bad intentions this time, nor did he intend to extort them. Because he directly put his thoughts on the table. You want to see me fight with an Earth-ranked powerhouse? Fine. Pay the ores. This was also because he urgently needed the materials for the 3 weapons. Otherwise, he would definitely use various spirit stones to set the price. Jun Changshao's action made the martial artists who came to watch the show depressed. Someone asked at the top of his voice, Jun Patriarch, what kind of ores do we have to pay, and how much should we pay? Jun Changshao said, whatever ores you need, you have to go through verification. He paused, then pointed below the stronghold, and said, everyone can line up for verification. Below the stronghold, the Purple King stood proudly with his arms crossed. Beside him were many tables. Li Qingyang and the others sat among them, as if they were strictly trained or detectors. Let's go take a look. A martial artist was very bold. He walked over first, and took out the oars in his spatial ring to inspect them one by one. Li Qingyang told him the names and appearance of the oars that the patriarch had arranged before, and then selected them. 20 kilograms of cold stream stone, 20 kilograms of rhythm stone. If you meet the requirements, you can enter the spectator seats. Finished speaking, he pushed back the oars that were not selected. That's it? The martial artist's expression was a little stunned. In total, there were only 20 kilograms of cold stream stone and rhythm stone. The price was not high, and it was a little cheap to enter the spectator seats. I'll try too. Another martial artist walked over. After verifying a few dozen kilograms of ores, he obtained the qualifications to enter the spectator seats. Isn't this too simple? Let's go. All the martial artists rushed over and lined up to take out their private stashes of ores. Although there were many types, there were always 2 or 3 that were accepted. Moreover, they did not ask for much, at most 50 kilograms. For martial artists who collected hundreds or thousands of kilograms of ores, it was completely a drop in the ocean. Patriarch Ding Xingwang said, they are all willing to use ores in exchange for the qualifications to enter the spectator seats. Jun Changshao said, I don't rob, and I don't extort. I'm just doing business to earn ores. They definitely won't resist. If he did too much extortion, it would easily cause negative effects. Therefore, Go Sheng wanted to be a proper businessman this time. As long as he paid, he could watch the battle as he pleased. Chapter 1025. When he was building the arena, Jun Changshao had a flash of inspiration. He ordered Page to build spectator seats, just to see if there were any business opportunities. As expected, the Earth-ranked powerhouses attracted many martial artists. To watch the show, one had to enter the spectator seats, and to enter the spectator seats, one had to pay. There was no robbery or extortion, the price was clearly marked. Jun Changshao was indeed doing business, and no one could find fault with it. Using a small amount of ore resources to watch the Earth-ranked powerhouses fight, this did not seem to be a loss, so many martial artists went up to pay. The spectator seats could hold 100,000 spectators, and in a short time, they were almost full. Patriarch Li Qingyang held the list of ores, and said, 60 types of ores, a total of 4.2 million pounds. Jun Changshao went through simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and rounding, and thought, with so many ores, 3 types of weapons should be able to be refined into 4,000 to 5,000 weapons. System. The host set up the arena to challenge the Earth-ranked powerhouses, firstly to measure his own strength, and secondly to show off, but in the end, it became a way to earn resources. Showing off and earning money together, why not? Swoosh! Jun Changshao lightly shook his shoulders, and threw off his mink coat. Xiao Ziji took a step forward and caught it, then put it on his wrist and returned to his original position. Swoosh! With a leap, he landed on the arena. Huff huff, the artificial wind blew from the side, blowing away Jun Changshao's soft black hair, revealing a face that was as sharp as a knife. The camera gave a close-up, moving slowly from right to left, showing the general in all directions. There should be applause here. After landing on the arena, Jun Changshao stroked his black hair, and said, "Welcome everyone who has traveled thousands of miles to watch the battle. Next, Jun will challenge all the Earth-ranked powerhouses, and whoever wins will receive 100,000 hexagram stones." Clap clap clap. After saying that, he clapped his hands. Li Qingyang carried a big box out of the stronghold, and then placed it on the prepared stone platform. After opening it, it was immediately filled with spirit stones. Since there were no restrictions, all the martial artists present were able to spread their spirit energy. Soon, they were able to determine that there were 100,000 hexagram stones. Precious martial resources were usually stored in spatial rings. Now that they were placed on the stone platform, and there were so many of them, it was really tempting. Wait a minute. All the martial artists suddenly realized a very serious problem. The disciple who took the mink coat, the disciple who walked out with the box, didn't he die in the Azura field? Fuck, how are these disciples still alive? The guy with the mink coat was obviously hacked to death. Even if he was seriously injured and didn't die, he shouldn't be fine. Many martial artists who had watched the battle in the Azura arena realized this in hindsight, so they rubbed their eyes one after another. After confirming that they weren't seeing things, they couldn't help but say in disbelief, "What the hell?" Fortunately, they had only seen a few disciples of the sect of all times who had died, and not the 2,000 warriors of the falling star continent who had left in advance. Otherwise, they would have been so shocked that they would have flown into the air and been pulled into the ambulance by the doctors. They would have struggled desperately and roared, "I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy." The Earth-ranked martial artists present didn't care about this. After seeing the 100,000 six-pointed star stones, their eyes lit up. The spirit stones of the 9 heavens continent were good stuff. If they could get their hands on them, they would definitely be able to cultivate steadily for a long time. Of course. Jun Changshao added, "I'll say the ugly words first. If Jun is lucky enough to win, the loser will have to take something out." This sentence was undoubtedly like cold water, splashing the 100 or so Earth-ranked martial artists present. Jun Patriarch. An Earth-ranked martial artist said, "What will they take out?" "Those who lose to Jun will have to pay 10,000 spirit stones. If they really don't have enough, they can use ores as a substitute." Jun Changshao pointed to the side and said, "As for what ores, it's already listed here." Everyone turned their heads and saw 2 disciples of the sect of all times carrying a large wooden board out. All kinds of ores were written on the board. Not only was there a description of the weight of 10,000 spirit stones, there was also a detailed description of the ores. Similar ores existed in different planes, but the names might be different, so the pictures would make it easier for them to understand. "Don't say any more." After the martial artists looked at them one by one, they could find the corresponding ores from the ores, and some of the ores were even more common. 50 kilograms of Shao Inshur can replace 10,000 spirit stones. "This is definitely worth it," a disciple from a certain plane secretly said. "That's right." Jun Changxiao's real goal wasn't to get the loser to pay 10,000 spirit stones, but to use ores as a substitute. Giving a fixed price first, and then using something lower than the original value as a substitute would definitely be easier to accept. Since Jun Patriarch has taken out 100,000 six-pointed star stones, if I lose, it's reasonable to give 10,000 spirit stones. An Earth-ranked martial artist agreed. The other martial artists had no objections. The temptation of 100,000 six-pointed star stones was too great. Moreover, they could use a small amount of ores to replace 10,000 spirit stones, so they were naturally willing to take the gamble. In that case, Jun Changshao waved his sleeves and cupped his fists. "Then let's not waste time. Who will go on stage to fight Jun first?" Swish! As soon as he finished speaking, an Earth-ranked martial artist flew over and landed on the stage. He cupped his fists and said, "I'll be the first to ask Jun Patriarch for some advice." However, with a serious expression, he said, "I'll make it clear first. Jun Patriarch must not use the sword with words engraved on it." The other martial artists who were eager to give it a try immediately pricked up their ears. Everyone was most afraid of the unstoppable blade. If Goshing took it out and used it, they would definitely not challenge him because it was no different from giving away spirit stones and ores for free. "Don't worry," Jun Changshao said seriously, "Jun will not use that weapon. Please." The Earth-ranked martial artist with the surname Song cupped his fists. "Please." Jun Changshao cupped his fists. Huff, huff. As soon as he finished speaking, the Earth-ranked martial artist rushed over like a cannonball. His hands quickly formed seals, and monstrous palm prints pressed down from both sides. The goal this time was to get the 10,000 six-pointed star stones, not a friendly spar. Therefore, they were in the zone the moment the battle started. Boom! Boom! Jun Changshao was fearless. When all kinds of palm prints came crashing down, he waved his fists and broke them easily. Crack, crack, crack. It was a simple move to break the attack, but the space was unable to withstand it, and it immediately cracked. The battle stage supported by the array didn't move at all. Boom! Boom! In an instant, Jun Changshao and the Earth-ranked martial artist engaged in a fierce battle. All kinds of energy wantonly spread out. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Around the battle stage, a faintly discernible array barrier appeared, blocking all the energy that could endanger the spectator stand. The protective mechanism was perfect. What a fast speed! I can't see how they attack at all. Earth-ranked martial artists are so terrifying. The spectators were shocked. After confirming that they wouldn't be affected, they suddenly felt that spending a few kilograms of ores in exchange for a close-up battle was really worth it. It had to be said. Jun Changshao was very good at doing business. The consumers who paid to watch the battle were very satisfied with the visual and physical experience. They even felt that it was worth it. Chapter 1026. Boom! On the fighting stage, a loud sound rang out, and powerful energy surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. The spectators were not affected by the battle because of the protection of the array. Instead, they saw the Earth-ranked powerhouse being blasted out and then stuck to the flowing light barrier, grimacing in pain. He lost. Isn't it too fast? As long as the disparity in strength between two Earth-ranked powerhouses was not too great, it would not be a problem for them to talk about marriage until their children grew up. Had the two of them fought for dozens of moves? Had it ended so hastily? The main reason was that there were more Earth-ranked challengers. In order to earn more ores faster, Jun Changshao was very serious in the fight. The powerhouse surnamed Song endured the pain and clasped his hands with difficulty. Thank you, Jun Patriarch, for showing mercy. I accept my loss wholeheartedly. Jun Changshao said, 10,000 spirit stones, or are you going to pay with ores? Ores! He had a list of ores on the wooden board. If converted into spirit stones, it would only be 3,000 to 4,000. Therefore, ores were definitely more cost-effective than spirit stones. Jun Changshao waved his hand and said, please go to the back and pay the corresponding amount of ores according to the price on the list. Sigh. The Earth-ranked powerhouse shook his head. He walked to the table behind the arena and waved his hand to take out dozens of kilograms of ores. If you agree to bet, you must accept defeat. You must be careful. Because after he was blasted off the arena, the Purple King's bull-like eyes were staring at him, making his hair stand on end. It meets the requirements. After Old Ding carefully examined the ores, he said, Sir, please leave. The Earth-ranked powerhouse had a bitter expression. He had wanted to defeat Jun Changshao and get 100,000 six-pointed star stones, but in the end, he had to give away dozens of kilograms of ores. It was really a bit of a mess. Fortunately, there were not many ores, so it was still within the acceptable range. Otherwise, he would definitely vomit blood. Shwa! Another Earth-ranked powerhouse landed on the arena. From the aura he emitted, it was obvious that he was much stronger than the first one. Please! Please! Boom boom boom! Caw caw caw! A powerful battle instantly started again. Spiritual energy exploded on the arena. The space was shaken into pieces. The spectating martial artists also felt their blood boil as they watched. From beginning to end, they kept consoling themselves and emphasizing that this money was well spent. Boom! After a short while, the second powerhouse was also sent flying. He clutched his chest and said in admiration, Jun Patriarch is powerful. This old man is inferior to him. Spirit stones or ores? Ores! Go and pay. Old Ding was in charge of continuing to solidify the ores. The third Earth character on the stage had already walked up. Boom! 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 After a brief exchange of blows, Huali flew out. This is too strong. The corners of the martial artists' mouths twitched violently. If he had won in a normal one-on-one battle, they would have been able to accept it. However, Jun Changshao had consecutively challenged 3 Earth-level characters without any rest in between. His ferocity was a little outrageous. Furthermore, every time he defeated his opponent, he would shake his head with disappointment in his eyes. I didn't have enough fun. He didn't really let go. Even if this kid's strength hasn't reached the heaven level, he's at least at the high level of the earth level. If he's at a lower level, he'll definitely lose. Someone judged. Many martial artists from different planes agreed. However, the earth-level powerhouses who hadn't fought yet disagreed. It was undeniable that Jun Changxiao's strength was very strong. However, there were about 100 earth-level powerhouses in the arena. If he didn't use divine weapons, it would be difficult for him to fight them one by one. One person's strength was limited. No matter how powerful that guy was, how could he face so many people in a round-robin battle? Everyone. Jun Changxiao said, Jun forgot to say just now. Whoever can defeat me will receive 100,000 six-pointed star stones. As soon as this sentence was said, the earth-level powerhouse's eyes lit up. For the 100,000 six-pointed star stones, he must not follow his heart. He must fight him to the end. Boom! 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 The battle continued. Energy exploded wildly. 2 hours later, another 6 Earth-level powerhouses went up to the stage one after another. In the end, all of them were defeated without exception. Although their strength wasn't at the top of the Earth level, they were comparable to the 3rd or 4th rank Wusheng in the Starfall continent. In the end, no one could withstand more than 50 moves. Boom! Another explosion came from the fighting stage, and another figure staggered and fell down. He still lost. Seeing the 10th challenger end in defeat, the spectating martial artists' expressions didn't change at all. Because they were already used to it. Boom! Suddenly, a tremor came from the arena. A bare-chested muscular man with a bald head strode down and said in a loud voice, I'll meet Benefactor Jun. Please. Jun Changxiao cupped his hands. Feeling the Buddhist chi emitting from the other party, he secretly judged, this person should be a Buddhist martial artist who is proficient in external martial arts. A sadhu from the Maha continent. It said that he reached the earth level just by cultivating his physical body. So terrifying. Everyone was shocked. Martial artists in any plane couldn't do without the heaven and earth attribute. To be able to reach the earth level just by cultivating his physical body was absolutely terrifying. Xiao Ziji, who was standing in the distance, had a burning gaze. Although he couldn't compete with the sadhu with his current strength, the other party could reach the earth level with his physical body. Without a doubt, he had set an example for himself. He could do it. He could do it too. An unprecedented sense of self-confidence spread through Xiao Zui's body. I've sinned. Jun Changxiao transmitted his voice, this person is your martial arts template. However, I hope that you will be more outstanding than him in the future. Xiao Ziji held his head high and said, I won't let the patriarch down. Ta ta ta. At this moment, the sadhu stepped forward, and an incomparably vigorous Buddhist power came crashing down. Whoosh whoosh, a powerful golden wave swept over, shaking the space until it gradually distorted. The power of Buddhism was to deliver all living beings. So when this power came crashing down, Jun Changxiao's heart was filled with awe. To show respect, he also stepped forward, gathered power in his right fist, and then suddenly punched out. Buddhist martial arts were open and aboveboard. I, Jun Changxiao, would naturally be open and aboveboard. Boom! The two fists were separated by 10 feet. Although they didn't directly collide, there was a thunderous boom. Whoosh 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 in the gap, the two forces fought wildly. In terms of momentum, neither side was at a disadvantage, and they entered a temporary stalemate. Ta! The sadhu lifted his foot and stomped on the ground again. Whoosh whoosh! Golden energy that was visible to the naked eye suddenly erupted from his right arm and quickly spread to his fist. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the sadhu's strength suddenly increased dramatically. Although Jun Changshao was still able to stand in place, his right sleeve exploded with a bang. The system said, "This person mainly cultivates the physical body. It's unwise for the host to fight with him like this. My physical body is not weak either." Jun Changshao imitated the sadhu's previous move and stomped down with one foot. The power of his physical body erupted like a flood, instantly pouring into his right fist, as if it had turned into thousands of waves crashing down. Oh my God! Seeing the powerful force, the spectating martial artists widened their eyes. Anyone present could do this. However, whether it was Jun Changshao or the sadhu, they didn't use any spiritual power. They were using the purest physical strength to fight. It was a huge scene. It wasn't flashy at all. Chapter 10:27. Amazing! Both of them are different from ordinary people in terms of body refinement. How did they cultivate? The Earth-level powerhouses who did not fight felt ashamed of their inferiority after witnessing the battle between Jun Changshao and the sadhu. Boom! Suddenly, a muffled sound was heard. Thump, thump, thump. The sadhu took a few steps back and said in surprise, "Your body strength is not below mine." Jun Gosheng laughed and said, "Insignificant skill, not worth mentioning." Everyone's mouth twitched slightly. Was this guy being humble, or was he just showing off? If one were to ask the sect of all times, who had the strongest body? Many people might subconsciously think of Xiao Ziji. After all, not only did he major in cultivation, but he was also the main tank. However, this was just the disciples. If the scope was expanded to the entire sect, the Purple King and Jun Changshao would definitely be the strongest. Go Sheng's high defense attribute was not only due to the body shaping pill, shaping room, and experience tower, but also an even more important factor. When he obtained the body of holy flame, it had been refined by dozens of holy and divine-grade fire seeds. Dragon and tiger battle for hegemony had resisted the upper realm's palm seal and the upper realm's lightning tribulation in the dimensional battlefield. The reason was that his body foundation was very good. Otherwise, even if he had all kinds of defensive equipment, he would not be able to withstand it. The system said, "In the future, if anyone says that Go Sheng relied on his face to take the palm seal, don't blame me for giving a thumbs up." Stomp! The sadhu stepped forward again. His hands were crossed, and the kasai-like robe on his body fluttered without wind. Buzz, buzz! The space vibrated, and Buddhist aura lingered. Buddha on the spot! The sadhu shouted, and the Buddhist aura gathered above his head first evolved into a swastika, then quickly converged into a golden Dharma idol about 30 to 50 feet tall. He's using his trump card. It looks very strong. Everyone was discussing. Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, the golden Dharma idol that was gradually materializing opened its hands and suddenly transformed into 6 arms. Then, it gathered a sky full of Buddhist seals and pressed down. Boom! 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 Jun Changshao wandered among the Buddhist seals. Sometimes, he would raise his fists to defend himself. Sometimes, he would condense a wall of air to defend himself. He even used the power of space to perform small-scale dodging. The battle was brilliant and dazzling. In this kind of high-tempo battle, let alone Xian-level experts, even Earth-level experts were a little overwhelmed. Boom! Boom! Half an hour later, the sadhu stopped attacking and stood in place, panting. His bald head was covered in sweat. Currently, he was the only expert who could fight with Jun Changshao for hundreds of rounds. However, because his attack speed was too fast and he consumed too much energy, not only did he fail to defeat Jun Changshao, he even exhausted himself. "Are you still fighting?" Jun Changshao stood still and asked. From the looks of it, nothing seemed to have happened at all. Seeing this, the exhausted ascetic howled in his heart, "This is a monster. No more fighting, no more fighting. He waved his hand as he jumped off the stage. He was also the only one who went down on his own without being beaten up. Master, Jun Changshao said, please go to the back to pay the spirit stones or ores. The corners of the sadhu's mouth twitched, but he still walked over and took out 100 pounds of ores of different types. You've given too much. If you want to give me more, so be it. The sadhu didn't take back the extra ores and dragged his weak body away. It wasn't hard to see from his back that although he couldn't do anything to Jun Changshao, he had a good fight. This was a true master. Everyone. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, today's battle ends here. We'll continue tomorrow. Although this guy looked calm and collected, he was actually very weak. After all, he had just entered the Sword and Martial Saints and had already fought more than 10 Earth-level experts. He definitely wouldn't be able to hold on for long. That's it? I thought Jun Patriarch was going to fight all of them. Nearly 100 Earth-level experts lined up. Even a Heaven-level expert wouldn't be able to hold on. The Earth-level experts who didn't fight were also a little unhappy. However, they had fought so many battles. It was reasonable for them to rest for a night, so they forced themselves to continue fighting. See you tomorrow. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and returned to the Falling Star Continent's stronghold. The martial artists didn't stand up and leave because they were afraid that if they left, they would come back tomorrow to collect money again. Patriarch. Old Ding said, none of the martial artists in the spectator stands left. Jun Changshao was speechless. If they don't leave, how will I collect money tomorrow? As expected. It wasn't that the martial artists were too cautious, but that this guy really had plans to collect money again. The next day, the martial artists who had stayed up all night gathered in the spectator stands. Jun Changshao flew out from the stronghold and cupped his hands. The second day's battle begins now. Everyone was immediately energized. Shwa! At this moment, an Earth-level expert flew out and cupped his hands. Jun Patriarch, please enlighten me. Please. Boom boom boom. The two of them instantly started fighting. Jun Changshao, who had rested for a night, recovered and fought with extra effort. About a moment later, only the Earth-level expert, who was comparable to rank for Wu Sheng, was sent flying. This was just the beginning. The 7 or 8 Earth-level experts who came up one after another were all defeated without exception and offered various ores. Ding! Ding! Just as Jun Changshao was fighting, the Foundry Pavilion's notifications would ring in his ears every once in a while. 3 dragon tooth weapons were refined one after another. Of course. Gosheng didn't do this kind of thing. Xiao Ziji was responsible for arranging and refining. He only needed to defeat his opponent and obtain a few ores and materials for refining. After fighting for 4 hours, the second day's battle ended. As usual, they continued to rest in the stronghold. As for the group of martial artists who were watching the battle, they still sat in the same place and refused to leave. In this way, they didn't give Jun Changshao another chance to collect money. The third day, the battle in the arena continued. Various experts came up one after another, lost one after another, and offered ores one after another. During this period, hundreds of each of the 3 dragon tooth weapons were refined and countless ores were stored for forging. They could be refined more. Every day, powerful opponents would appear. Although Jun Changshao was able to win, he would have to pay a great price to do so. This was especially true when he had to face an Earth-level expert whose strength was comparable to a rank 6 martial saint. He had to use all kinds of equipment in order to win. Thus, it could be confirmed that he, who had just broken through to Saint Realm, was not inferior to a middle-level Earth-level expert. When facing a high-level Earth-level expert, as long as he had the advantage of equipment, he could still win. Patriarch. On the 6th day, Old Ding looked at the few remaining experts outside and said, "It's almost done today." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "These few are stronger and have watched the battle for so long. They should know me well. It's a bit difficult to defeat them. I'll do it." Demon Monarch Zebra Craggy said indifferently. He had been watching the battle for the past few days, which made him want to fight with the Earth-level experts very much. Let's have a good fight after I defeat them, Jun Changshao said. The Purple King was stunned. He immediately shook his head and said, Patriarch is no match for me. Don't ask for humiliation. Jun Changshao touched his nose and said, Are you so confident? After that, he was about to jump to the arena outside. At this moment, a deep voice sounded in the sky. The Lingyuan continent violated the rules in the slaughter Shiraba. Special punishment is given to warn others. Chapter 1028. Did the Lingyuan continent violate the rules in the massacre Shiraba? What do you mean? A deep and weathered voice resounded throughout the dimensional battlefield. Not only did all the martial artists hear it clearly, but they were also dumbfounded. Didn't this continent just fight with the Falling Star continent a few days ago? Moreover, all 2,000 people who went in died. It took a long time just to collect the corpses. Now that they were suddenly punished by the upper realm, it must be one disaster after another. Let's go. Let's go and take a look. Many martial artists thought for a while and set off for the Lingyuan continent's stronghold. The upper realm had punished the Falling Star continent many times. They did not dare to go there for fear of being blackmailed. In this dimension, there was nothing to be afraid of. Blackmail depended on one's strength. Obviously, the Lingyuan continent was not as intimidating as the Falling Star continent in their hearts. Patriarch. Old Ding frowned and said, Valley Master Ko and the others were punished. Jun Changshao also frowned and said, Did the upper realm find out that the Lingyuan continent and I were acting? If that was the case, the act of playing dead in the massacre Shiraba was his decision and attempt. The Lingyuan continent was just an accomplice. Why didn't the Falling Star continent punish them instead? The system said, since the host came to the battlefield, did the upper realm not punish the Falling Star continent enough? Jun Changshao did some mental calculations. There were so many lightning retribution and battlefield ghosts. Did the upper realm know that they could not punish him, so they vented their anger on the Lingyuan continent? That's possible, the system said. Fuck. Jun Changshao said angrily, how dare they bully my partner? This is intolerable. Everyone. He leaped out and said loudly, the arena battle ends here. Old Ding, Hall Master Z, Bai Qiu, Elder Sun, Elder Jiang. Jun Changshao used the telepathic technique to add all the members. Follow me to the Lingyuan continent. Yes. Whoosh. 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 The upper echelons of the sect of all times led by the Purple King flew out of the stronghold. Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen, and other core disciples followed closely behind. It was no exaggeration to say that. In just a few short seconds, all the elites of the sect of all times had moved out. Their momentum was unparalleled. The audience and the Earth-ranked powerhouse were stunned. The voice from the upper world had just ended when Jun Changshao left with the members of the sect of all times. What were they up to? They seemed to be heading toward the Lingyuan continent. I understand. Jun Changshao is rushing over with his men. He's trying to take advantage of the situation. What kind of hatred and resentment is this? When others are being punished by the upper realm, they still have to go and add fuel to the fire. The warriors from other realms had misunderstood. They thought that there was a grudge between the Falling Star continent and the Lingyuan continent. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to the Shiraba to fight. They were all going there to take advantage of the chaos. In fact, the entire sect of all times had mobilized in order to rescue them. No one could deny that Jun Changshao was shameless. But, there was something special about him. Protective. Many of his disciples would immediately lead people to fight when they were bullied. Although they were not master and disciple in the Lingyuan continent, they had worked closely together many times and could be considered good friends. They might be targeted by the upper realm because of their cooperation. If they didn't help, they would be shameless. Me, Jun Changshao. A handsome guy with principles. My lord. In the palace, the hunchbacked old man was puzzled. The falling star continent has also violated the rules. Why are they only punishing the Lingyuan continent? The woman shrouded in clouds and mist said, they've been punished many times recently, but they still can't do anything about it. The hunchbacked old man was silent. If the Lord really wanted to punish the falling star continent, he could just send dozens of heavenly battlefield spirits and raze the stronghold to the ground in seconds. If Go Sheng could hear his thoughts, he would definitely carry dozens of magically modified vacuum cleaners and use one yang finger and lion's roar at the same time. He shouted, come here. Hum. Hum. Outside the Lingyuan continent stronghold, battlefield spirits appeared out of thin air and lined up neatly. How many were there? 5,000. What about their strength? 2 heavenly battlefield spirits, 100 earthly battlefield spirits, 500 Shen battlefield spirits, and the rest were all yellow battlefield spirits. The lineup was a luxurious package. Even the first echelon would tremble in fear if they saw them. Valley Master. An elder ran in a panic and said in horror, there are 5,000 battlefield spirits outside. Before he said anything, Kuji Nen had already heard about the marriage proposal. At this moment, she was already paralyzed in her chair. Putting aside the number of people, just 2 heavenly battlefield spirits alone were no match for them. There were powerhouses of this level in the Lingyuan continent, but they were not on the battlefield at this moment. It would be too late to dispatch them. It's over. Kuji Nen said with a poker face, it's over. The upper realm had directly dispatched so many battlefield spirits. Obviously, they wanted to punish the Lingyuan continent severely. Once the other party launched an attack, the stronghold would definitely be destroyed very quickly. At that moment, Kuji Nen wanted to cry but had no tears. She was extremely regretful. If she had not been greedy for hundreds of thousands of 6-pointed star stones, she would not have agreed to act with Jun Changshao. She would not have ended up in this state of being punished. Sinner. I'm a sinner. Kuji Nen howled in her heart. The upper realm had only sent battlefield spirits for one purpose, to destroy the stronghold. If the punished plane could not be protected, the stronghold would be razed to the ground and would completely cease to exist on the battlefield. The Lingyuan continent would have a rotation of forces every few years. This time it happened to be Kuji Nen's 100 Leaves Valley. If the stronghold was destroyed in her hands, she would definitely be too ashamed to face her elders. Valley Master. An elder said solemnly, what should we do now? Kuji Nen stood up and said with a determined expression, for the stronghold, fight to the death. He could bring his disciples back to the Lingyuan continent and thus be unharmed. However, since he was the leader of the stronghold, he must live and die with it. Fight! Fight! A loud voice was transmitted over the stronghold. After a brief panic, the disciples of the 100 Leaves Valley and some martial artists of the Lingyuan continent, and even the itinerant cultivators, revealed a fighting spirit in their eyes. Swoosh! Swoosh! Everyone flew out one after another. They're out. The Lingyuan continent is really bold. They actually took the initiative to fight the battlefield spirits. Wait. Didn't some martial artists die in the Azura battlefield? How are they still alive? The martial artists who had rushed over early to watch the show were all wide-eyed when they saw many martial artists of the Lingyuan continent come back from the dead. The most unbelievable thing was that Kuji Nen, the Valley Master of the 100 Leaves Valley, who had died after being stabbed in the chest by Jun Changshao, flew out unscathed. What the hell? What the hell is going on? Could it be that the Lingyuan continent was faking their deaths and was punished by the upper realm because they were discovered? That should be it. Many martial artists of the plane vaguely guessed the truth. That was not the point. The point was that when the martial artists of the Lingyuan continent flew out, the eyes of the thousands of battlefield spirits in the outside world shone as if they had woken up from a deep sleep. Whoosh whoosh, a powerful airwave swept over, and the surroundings became even more oppressive and somber. Chapter 1029. 5,000 battlefield spirits had combat awareness. Powerful airwaves swept over, making the surroundings even more austere and cold. Kuji-nen stood in midair. Although she looked fearless on the surface, she was actually panicking in her heart. There were so many spirits and they were extremely powerful. If they really fought, how could the disciples and the martial artists of the Lingyuan continent fight against them? Her determination to fight to the death for the stronghold was immediately shaken when she felt the powerful aura erupting from the battlefield spirits. Kuji-nen was not afraid of death. However, if she overestimated herself and sent herself to death, it was really unnecessary. Valley Master. An elder advised, "Where there is life, there is hope. Let's withdraw from the battlefield first." Of course, the stronghold would be completely lost if they withdrew, but at least the disciples could save their lives. Grand Elder. Kuji-nen said with a solemn expression, "Take the disciples and leave first." "Where is the Valley Master?" Grand Elder asked. Kuji-nen looked back at the stronghold that was the size of a city and said, "This place was built by the ancestors of the Lingyuan continent with countless blood. Because of me, it suffered a great disaster. This is an unforgivable sinner." It was not difficult to hear that she wanted to live and die with the stronghold. "Valley Master, say no more. I have made up my mind." Kuji-nen looked at him and said in an inviolable tone, "As the 160th Valley Master, I order you to take the sect's upper echelons and disciples and leave immediately." Grand Elder's expression was ugly, and he said, "Yes. Retreat. Retreat. Swish. Swish. Swish." In a moment, the upper echelons and disciples of the 100 Leaves Valley flew into the stronghold and landed in front of the bronze door. All of them looked at the Valley Master sadly. "The people of the 100 Leaves Valley have retreated? Forget it. Let's retreat quickly too." The martial artists and itinerant cultivators of the Lingyuan continent retreated one after another. "That's right. There are so many battlefield spirits. Even the 4 first-tier planes dare not fight against them, let alone the 5th or 6th tier." The martial artists of the Lingyuan continent expressed their understanding of the retreat. However, everyone had left. Only the Valley Master of the 100 Leaves Valley was still standing outside the stronghold, confronting the 5,000 battlefield spirits. The martial artists of the various planes were puzzled. "He wants a stronghold." Swish! A stream of light flew into the stronghold and hovered in front of the 100 Leaves Valley Grand Elder. When the light dissipated, a sword surrounded by green light appeared. Qing Xian's sacred nether sword. The symbol of the Valley Master of the 100 Leaves Valley. Grand Elder. Kuji-nen turned her back to the crowd and said, "When we return, we will choose another Valley Master." Valley Master. The disciples shouted in grief and indignation. The first elder's expression changed again. He put the green mystic sacred nether sword into his interspatial ring and said, "Disciples, return to the Lingyuan continent." He really wanted to stay and defend the stronghold with the Valley Master, but at this moment, he had to leave with the disciples because this was an order. Shwa! Shwa! At this moment, the battlefield specter had already launched its attack. Hu, Kuji-nen clenched her fists, and a vast amount of energy and a fearless aura burst out. The martial artists watching the battle immediately felt a sense of respect. The Valley Master of the 100 Leaves Valley had no way of contending against 2 heaven-level cultivators and so many earth and Xian-level cultivators. Yet, he was so fearless. He was a true man. Who? Dozens of battlefield specters had already charged over. Because there was only one target outside the stronghold, these brainless creatures directly launched the human wave attack and pressed over from all directions. The powerful energy burst out, and all the martial artists unanimously agreed that Valley Master Ku would be unable to resist. Once he was surrounded, he would definitely die. In terms of absolute power and numbers, it was definitely an unsolvable situation for him to face alone. Boom! 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 Kuji-nan, who was surrounded, waved her fists frequently, and instantly sent more than 20 yellow battlefield specters flying. As an Earth-level cultivator, it was definitely easy to fight against this level. However, the enemies that came later were not only Xian-level cultivators, but also Earth-level cultivators. Boom, boom, boom. Hoo! In an instant, Kuji-nan was surrounded by a sea of battlefield specters. Although she could take the opportunity to send some low-level battlefield specters flying, it was also exchanged for a more violent pincer attack. This kind of scene of one person fighting against thousands was quite unfair. Moreover, there were many Earth-level cultivators mixed in. So, after a short fight, Kuji-nan was at a disadvantage. Boom! In a moment of carelessness, a few Earth-level battlefield specters hit her back from the side. Bang, bang! Kuji-nan, who was bombarded, first sent 2 Xian-level cultivators flying. Then, she staggered back a few steps and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face instantly turned pale. Valley Master! Grand Elder, we will fight to the death with Valley Master. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 100-Leaf Valley disciples did not enter the bronze door. They all flew out of the stronghold without caring about their lives. Seeing this, the Grand Elder secretly said, Valley Master, this is not something I can control. Swoosh! She turned into a stream of light and rushed out of the stronghold. At this moment, whether it was the 100-Leaf Valley higher-ups or the Earth-level cultivators, no one chose to drag out an ignoble existence. They rushed out and defended the stronghold with Valley Master. It did not matter even if they died. Boom! Boom! Outside the stronghold, several Earth-level battlefield specters attacked again. Although Kuji-nan tried to dodge, she could not avoid being bombarded all over her body. She looked more and more embarrassed. When she saw the sect's higher-ups and disciples coming back, she roared, "You!" Her voice stopped abruptly because a powerful aura suddenly burst out behind her. A heaven-level battlefield specter that had been watching from the sidelines swept over with a sickle. The powerful energy and absolute strength made Kuji-nan's mind tremble. A strong ominous feeling rushed into her mind. She was going to die. She was going to die in front of the disciples. Kuji-nan knew she was doomed. Because there were dozens of Earth-level cultivators around her, she chose to close her eyes. As the 160th Valley Master of the 100-Leaf Valley, she had to die with dignity. Boom! Suddenly, there was an explosion behind her. Kuji-nan only felt a violent wave of air sweeping over, so she hurriedly opened her eyes and turned around. Please imagine the background music of gang leader Qiao appearing with a stereo. In her vision, Jun Changshao, who was fully armed and turned into steel, had his back to her. The power gathered in his fists could be described as terrifying. As for the heaven-level battlefield specter that suddenly attacked, it had been blasted hundreds of feet away. Jun Patriarch. Kuji-nan was stunned. He thought that the falling star continent might come to help, but he didn't expect it to come so quickly and in such a timely manner. Valley Master Ko. Jun Changshao stood proudly in front of her, a rare serious look on his face. He locked onto the battlefield specters and said, "Leave this bunch of trash to the Sect of all times." Leave it to the Sect of all times? Kuji-nan immediately used her spiritual senses to detect that many Sect of all times disciples were rushing over. Swoosh! At this moment, the heaven-level battlefield specter that was sent flying slashed over with its sickle. Whoosh! A dazzling light tore through the air like a crescent moon. Sect Master Jun sneered coldly as he raised his palm and flung it out. A vast amount of energy burst forth and clashed against the beam of light. Boom! The energy exploded, and the space was shattered. Kuji-nan, who was standing behind him, saw that Jun Changshao could easily break the light. She said in disbelief, Is he a heaven-level cultivator? Chapter 1030. The martial artists watching the battle from afar were also stunned. Like Kuji Nan, they didn't expect Jun Changshao to suddenly attack. They also didn't expect him to punch away the sky battlefield spirit and break the scythe lights so easily. Is he a heaven-level master? Everyone was thinking about this. Jun Changshao, who had an unstoppable blade, was like the Grim Reaper walking out of hell in the eyes of the martial artists. But without a weapon, he was just an earth-level master. Why was he so fierce today? Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, 2 earth battlefield spirits came from the left and right sides. The spears in their hands were shining brightly. Kuji Nan saw this and said in surprise, Jun Patriarch, little, swoosh. Swoosh! Jun Changshao raised his hands, and a strong sword force burst out. It instantly turned into a big hand and grabbed the spears, then pulled them over. Because the force was too strong, the weapons of the 2 earth battlefield spirits not only fell out of their hands, but also moved forward due to inertia. Bam! Bam! Jun Changshao grabbed the spears with both hands. He poured spiritual energy into the spears and swept them over, directly smashing the heads of the 2 earth battlefield spirits together with their helmets. Kuji Nan, who was the closest, saw this, and her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Although the 2 earth battlefield spirits weren't high level, their strength was second only to her. Jun Patriarch killed them so easily. This was too terrifying. Heaven level. It must be heaven level. All the martial artists, including Kuji Nan, were immediately certain of this. Dozens of Xian and Huang ghosts took the opportunity to charge over. Swoosh! 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 All kinds of colorful energy burst forth. Kuji Nan didn't remind them. To be able to kill earth-level masters so easily, these people were probably not enough to be poked by Jun Patriarch's finger. However, when all kinds of energy were about to hit him, that guy was still standing in the same place. He didn't show any signs of defense or attack. Brother! Give me some reaction. I'm panicking hiding behind you. Boom! 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 The energy exploded, and the aftershock rippled. Because of her injuries, Kuji Nan knew that she could not withstand so much force. Not only did she close her eyes, but she also subconsciously raised her arms. However, when all the sounds dissipated, he discovered that he was still safe and sound. Thus, he hurriedly opened his eyes again and discovered that there was another person in front of him out of thin air. No. A wok. A very big one. Pot? All the cultivators were dumbfounded. Shwa! The cauldron in front of Kuji Nan suddenly spun and flew out with a streak of light. Pang pang pang. Along the way, all the yellow battlefield specters that were touched by it had their heads swept off. It was even sharper than a sharp blade. Paw! The cauldron spun at an extremely fast speed, rushing several hundred feet before it was firmly caught by a hand. Shwa! Xiao Ziji raised his arm gently and hid Yan Mingxia in front of him. He glanced at the specters on the battlefield and said proudly, I am Xiao Ziji, a disciple of the Sect of all times. I request a fight. The martial artists of this plane almost fell to the ground. As veterans of the pugilistic world, they had seen all kinds of weapons, but this was the first time they saw someone actually using a cooking pot. And from the looks of it, it seemed like he was using it as a shield. However, what shocked them even more was that this Sect of all times disciples' strength was obviously only at the beginner yellow level. How could he kill specters of the same level so easily? There was only one possibility. This pot was definitely not ordinary. Shwa! Shwa! Hundreds of battlefield specters in the distance were mocked by Xiao Ziji. They all held their weapons and charged over, the red glow in their eyes even brighter. Clang! Suddenly, the sound of a sword being drawn was heard. Everyone hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound. Above the person holding the pot, a slightly weathered man was suspended. His right hand was on the half-unsheathed sword hilt. The cold wind blew his black hair away, revealing a pair of eyes that were as cold as swords. Sword controlling realm. Sword returning realm. All the cultivators exclaimed in surprise. Although the names they said were different, according to the falling star continent's level, it was the Sword Emperor realm. Senior brother Xiao. Zhou Hong pressed on the hilt of his sword and said, "The moment you attack is the moment they reveal their flaws. Next, please be sure to withstand their attacks." Xiao Ziji put his hands on Yun Mingxia's shoulders and said, "No problem." Everyone's mouth twitched. One yellow level was naturally no problem, but there were at least hundreds of them charging over. If each of them gathered their strength and attacked, even a black level cultivator would not be able to withstand it. Shwa! 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 At this moment, the hundreds of battlefield specters that were charging over all unleashed their energy. They either slashed out sword chi or saber chi. All kinds of energy came from the sky, mid-air, and low air without any blind spots. The scene was spectacular. "Come on!" Xiao Ziji's eyes flashed with excitement. With a bang, he stepped out of the void. Shwa! Yun Mingxia, who was standing in front of him, flew up. He opened his arms and hugged her, shouting, "Rise!" Whoosh, golden light flashed, and a stream of light soared into the sky. Fuck! All the martial artists were uncultured and cursed on the spot. Because in their field of vision, the stream of light gradually expanded and then formed a bell-like defensive shape, enveloping the disciples of the sect of all times. Buddhist martial arts? Someone guessed in surprise. This was not a Buddhist martial arts, but another function of Yun Mingxia. Although it was not as good as the sure kill skill, hidden hero incarnation, it could instantly provide a defensive barrier for oneself. It was called Golden Pot Shield. Boom! Boom! At this moment, all kinds of attacks from the hundreds of battlefield specters had already come, but they were all blocked by the Golden Pot Shield. Xiao Ziji, who was standing among them, looked a little pale, but he still hugged the big pot to support the golden barrier. He roared, "Junior brother Zhou, I can't hold on for much longer." Whoosh! Suddenly, a dazzling light fell from the sky, like a ray of light rising from the darkness. Although it seemed insignificant, it could illuminate the mountains and rivers. Zhou Hong made his move. This sword strike could be said to be extremely shocking. All the martial artists widened their eyes. The scene in their eyes was only the shocking sword strike that fell from the sky and then mercilessly swept through the hundreds of battlefield specters. Clang! Zhou Hong sheathed his sword. The cold wind blew his black hair away again, revealing a face that only a swordsman would have. Unsheathing. One sword strike. Sheathing. After the 3 steps were completed, the heads and bodies of the battlefield specters that were disturbed by the sword chi were all separated, and then they fell down like flies. Plop! Plop! Helmets, armors, and various weapons fell to the ground. All the martial artists were dumbfounded. They had more or less seen a sword Dao expert of this level, but killing hundreds of yellow battlefield specters with one sword strike was too ridiculously strong. Moreover, from the way that Guy attacked to the way he sheathed his sword, it seemed to be a very casual sword strike. TSK TSK. Jun Changshao exclaimed, "When my disciple slashed out with his sword just now, the sword force was so strong that it seemed to be invisible. It seems that after breaking through, he has a deeper understanding of the second style of Ling Jian's divine arts." Nonsense. The system said, after all, he is a genuine sword cultivator. Every day, he is either comprehending the sword or on the path of comprehending the sword. Unlike the host, who has never comprehended the sword and purely relied on taking medicine to level up. Jun Changshao asked, "I took medicine, am I proud?" You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.